Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Arm Wrestling Buzz podcast. This is Hollywood McConnelly with that double biceps. It is in the contract a legal requirement. Every single time we appear on camera, just making sure that the lawyers are happy. The box has been ticked. We have two very special guests on today's show. But first, we've got to introduce the man who's behind the show, the Arm Wrestling Buzz podcast. It is his baby. It is, in fact, the 5% man who walks around 5%. And when he diets down for a competition or for a photo shoot, he gets all the way to 3%. It is none other than businessman, entrepreneur, champion, Paul Italia. Welcome to your own show.
What's up? What's up, Matt? How you doing tonight, brother?
Going good, going good. We've got one of the legends of arm wrestling, a man who's been around, seen it all, done it all, has been at the pinnacle, the absolute top of the mountain, and still kicking around in the sport and having a fantastic time. He's got matches lined up, and he's still at looks like a bit of a comeback. So we're very honored to have the other Hollywood, the original Hollywood. It's Hollywood Don Underwood.
That's right, baby. What's happening, everybody? Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So good to have you here. And of course, the World Series of Arm Wrestling founder, it is none other than Gregg Sharp. Welcome to the show.
I appreciate that, guys. Great to be here. Thank you.
All right. How do you want to kick things off tonight, Paul?
So before we get into these great things that Greg and Don's got coming up, I just wanted to kind of touch on a subject that's been circling around the community this past week. It's been a lot of people just dropping out of our wonderful sport. And, everybody's been trying to figure out, like, what's behind it all, But, a lot of great guys that, were at the top level, and such as, like, Brad Grundy and believe Mike Bedwell and all. So I kind of just wanted to go around the room and kind of just get what your opinion is and, what's going on. So let's start off with you, Don. Why do you think there's so many people like just dropping out of arm wrestling recently?
Well, I mean, Paul, it could be a numerous amount of reasons, from health and family, and being a sport that's more hobby based. A lot of people don't prioritize it like they do a lot of things, or us, what I call semi-special ed with some DNA that's a little twisted, because we stick around no matter what. It's just part of who we are. So, somebody that likes to arm wrestle will stick around for a while, and they'll have some success, and they'll see that the avenue just kind of runs into a cul-de-sac every time. You just kind of circle back to where you are. There's some opportunities on the horizon. Gregg's doing some amazing things, and he's got some really, really neat things on the horizon, as well as some other things that I've heard. Can't really disclose too much, but I think it has something to do with just, when you put the work in, you're looking for some glory. You get it a little bit in rankings, but there's never really a pinnacle in this sport unless it's embedded in your DNA. And I think that's just the difference. You either are in love with this sport in a way that's unexplainable, that there is no leaving, there is no way, there is no meteor, there is no end of the world scenario that will take this away from us. It is what it is. It's who we are. And that's a very small percentage. So I've seen it for 35 years. Talent comes, talent goes. There's all sorts of excuses. At the end of the day, we are the elite that sticks around. We become legends, whether it's in our own minds or in many, many households. But ultimately, I think it's just, not worth the journey or the effort at some point for some people, because there's just not a reward big enough for them to continue. So that's just my opinion. And like I said, I'm in it till the last breath.
Matt, what's your whole outtake on this?
Yeah, I'm surprised that. Hang on, I'll just get Gregg back in here. That Grundy.
Sorry.
You're right, mate. You're right. We're just talking. We're finishing that about people leaving the sport, but I was really surprised to hear that with Grundy, because he just made that announcement that he put up the $5,000 to challenge anybody who wants to come and take him on in North America. So I thought was fantastic, because he was putting his money where his mouth is, and he said, "Look, I want to go against the top guys, and I'm being restricted in certain ways as to how I can get a match with them. So let me put $5,000 up and see if we can get somebody to come and pull against me." So I thought, great move, very clever, and really get the word out there that you're looking for a top level match. And then the next thing I hear is that he's stepping away from the sport. It was such a strange contrast. It was like, hang on, you're looking towards the top and now you're stepping away. But I mean, the reasons that I saw were a couple of injuries, something to do with his back or something like that. But it was just a bit of a surprise. And I hope that he does return to the sport if he has stepped away like permanently for the moment.
So Matt, I just want to add in on that. So he has scoliosis, which that's a serious medical issue, and I could see how arm wrestling could have effect on that. But I think there was a lot of discouragement, man, with putting out 5,000 to the whole community, and nobody was able to take that match. What I was hearing was people were bound to contracts, and he's at that top level, man, and he wants to be the top, and then to put out 5,000 of your own money. What I understand is he was willing to put up just 5,000. They didn't have to match him or anything. You know what I mean? So
Right.
like when you put it like that, it's like wow, like, and not to get anybody to take a match with you. So I think it has to do with some politics in the background. I think he was getting a little frustrated with that. Also the medical condition with the scoliosis, and then also he's also going to medical school, which to become a doctor. So I mean that's major, and we it's a little different than saying Brad's in here for a hobby. Brad's dedicating his whole life to being the top, and he's pretty much knocking on the door right there, and there's not too much higher that he could go other than getting these matches. And I think it was real defeating to see East versus West coming to Florida where he lives, and he didn't even get on a card there. And the guy that he just recently beat, Matt Mask, a lot of respect to him. He's a legend in our sport, so I understand completely why he's on East versus West. But I'm pretty sure it would probably be disheartening to see that he's not even getting an invite when it's coming right into his own state. And then to go further, he's trying to be a doctor. We all know if you gotta become a doctor, I'm sure you're gonna have to dedicate a lot of time, and I don't think being able to be at the top level of arm wrestling, put in every minute, every second to stay at that level is gonna go in sync with him becoming a doctor. So that's Brad's personal situation, but there is also other guys that, have been bowing out. And one of those guys would be Levi Knight, another great force that was in arm wrestling, great person. He came to a bunch of my events. He was at Winter Blast recently. And I know that his girlfriend broke her arm, which, that would be, pretty traumatic experience. And then just recently this week, I believe his name is Mike Bedwell. I got to see him in the last couple of years. He was in Florida at first, but now he's over in Texas. And he just said that his reason was, he was been trying to get sponsors. He's trying to live, support a family, work, and he's not getting those sponsors that he needs to be able to travel to go to that next level. So at that moment, it's not in the cards and all. So I just wanted to catch you guys up on just each particular situation. But I'm interested to hear from you, Greg. What do you think is the reason that a lot of these guys are, kind of just backing out of the sport, and how can we change that?
It's interesting, Paul. There's so many dynamic factors that go into being able to arm wrestle in the U.S., right? Versus maybe in Europe or in other countries. I mean, we really are a hobbyist sport for many reasons. And when economics plays into a factor, it's hard to get around those dollars. I mean, when you're a young man with a wife and kids, are you going to go home on a Thursday night and say, hey, honey, you're going to watch the kids for the next 3 days because I'm heading from Texas to Wyoming so I can try to go from number 8 in North America to number 7. And by the way, it's going to cost us $600, and I'm going to win a medal, and I'm going to win, bragging rights, and now you have to come back and face that woman and your kid, who probably could use $600 to, maybe play a sport or buy a new pair of pants or something in the line of life. So the hobbyist value is always something hard to get past. The other thing is, Paul, I think you hit upon it pretty well, is that when we're getting into a stage of arm wrestling where the stakes of physical supplementation and body training has become an all-time high. And you have to keep that consistency across 12 months. And that costs money, right? I mean, back in the day, and Don, you can correct me, but and anybody can correct me, but if you had one or two major tournaments in the course of a year, you could probably create your supplement curve to be able to peak out once or twice and really be at the high point of pulling. Now you have to be on that top level 12 months of the year, because you might get the call. You might get the call from, East versus West. You might get the call from somebody else. There are high-level tournaments that people want to pull in. I think we offer a pretty good prize package for what we do. So you have to be able to maintain that financial value. And unfortunately, the money behind the contests are still far and few between. I mean, let's say you're lucky enough to get East versus West and maybe another super match somewhere for whatever they pay. I don't have that information offhand. But then where do you go from there? I mean, I am not money to a finals. Financial decision, I think, for most, and obviously the supplement, which goes back to financial. I think what also happens, though, Paul and guys, is that athletes start to look at their careers in a little bit of a mysterious light, and I call it. And that's not to say that everybody shouldn't think that they're going to be the very best out there, but I think that when you start to elevate your own opinion and your own value, and you don't really present yourself in a way that's been consistent over the years, I think that word retirement or stepping away is maybe quickly used. And what people should probably say is, hey, listen, you know what? I'm going to take a break. It's fine. I've got personal, a personal agenda that has to be met. But now when I can step back in, I'm going to be ready. I mean, look at Don. Don's been in the sport for decades, right? I mean, I'm sure that there's been times where Don has pulled consistently 12 months a year, and then there are times where Don has stepped away and done what he needed to do in order to live his life. So I think that a lot of these guys will come back. I think Mike Bedwell will come back. I think the Grundys of the world will come back. I just think that we all go through this curve of priorities that ultimately we have to make some real selfish, maybe instead of selfless, but selfish decisions that best suit where we are at a period of time. And I think when people use that word, I want to retire at such a really young age, I think it's a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction. I would love to see these guys say, hey, listen, I'm just not going to pull for a while until I kind of put my affairs in order and I can figure some stuff out, and maybe I can get a sponsor, or maybe I can build up my social media a little bit, or work on my YouTube, or work on training videos and build some value so that some of these people out there that I work with will invest a little bit of money in me. So, I always try to stay very neutral with it, Paul, but I think that sometimes people jump because we're not sort of maybe a handful that a retirement statement would be maybe the right statement is, I've made enough money. I think I'm going to stop, and now I'm going to live my life the way I want it because I've made that personal goal on. I'd rather the guys say, hey, listen, I'm going to take a quick break. Maybe I get my medical degree, or my kids need to grow up a little bit more. And, once I have that timeline in front of me, I'm back in. And I think arm wrestling is one of those sports where maturity becomes, body maturity, not mental maturity, but maybe mental maturity, but body maturity becomes an advantage. We get stronger and better seasoned as we grow older in this sport. So I think guys may be jumping the gun a little bit. But I'd love to see these guys come back. I've met Mike Bedwell, super great guy. He's got a young family. He's got personal struggles that he's overcome. And he's a great story. I mean, we've thought about even highlighting him in World Series of Arm Wrestling in season, 3 or 4. But I mean, like anything else, you have to make those decisions based upon consistency and longevity. I'd love to see Mike come back. And when he is, I think the world of arm wrestling is going to embrace him again and say, hey, Mike, I've never been to an event, and I can say this honestly over the last 10 or 12 years, that if I missed an event for a year or I broke away, that when I walked back in, everybody wasn't, super pleasant. We shook hands, we hugged it out, we got on the table, and we arm wrestled again. I think that will probably be the curve, but this retirement, these statements of retirement, I think they're a little bit knee jerk. I'd love to see guys just say, hey, listen, be honest. My life is not adding up in a direction right now. And because of that, I'm going to step away, but I'm going to support it. I don't know if I even lost you guys because everybody's frozen on the screen. It says, oops, connection, we lost and reconnecting. So I don't know how much you guys from.
Yeah, we heard you pretty good. You did freeze up a little at the end, but you made a lot of great points there, Greg. You really did nail it on the nose with that. And I want to give my own personal example. And I tell everybody, I'm here for the marathon. Arm wrestling is a marathon, not a sprint. And I think a lot of people come into the sport and they get obsessed and they just go so hard. I think they kind of like burn themselves out, or that they don't reach the level that they thought they were going to reach, as far as sponsorships and getting the big stage and all that. So I think that plays a role in it. But like I tell everybody, I'm always going to be part of Lifetime. I'm a lifer. I'm here. I sometimes I'm going to be in the sport more than others. So right now, for myself, I'm starting a new business. I got a lot of time I got to put into that. But I still try keeping a balance where I'm at least being on podcasts. I'm showing up at events. When I can. But I'm not as crazy as I was 6 months ago, where I was living for arm wrestling and all. But I'm always going to be part of it. So I understand what you're saying with the retirement. It might have been a little knee-jerk reaction and all. I definitely get that. And I think it's one of those things that arm wrestlers got to learn the balance. And I believe Don Underwood, is a perfect example of that too. Don Underwood is, the top of the top. He's been on the reality show Game of Arms. But Don has also disappeared for the sport for some time, but he's always somewhat around armor. We know Don's coming back at some time, so I think that's kind of what's happening and all. But there was a post on Lorray Jenkins, and he kind of asked this exact question, and we got lots and lots of answers. And a lot of them really did. There wasn't just one that stuck out to me. There was a few, and I respect that, and I want to bring those up. And one of them being is a lot of people were feeling, this was one of the ones that got the most likes, so this is why I'm bringing this one up first, is a lot of people were saying that guys that are on social media like YouTube and all are getting more of the chances and opportunities. And it was discouraging to a lot of these pullers that might be better arm wrestlers than these guys getting the opportunity, but because they have big YouTubes or social media accounts, those are the guys getting the opportunities and everything. So I want to address that because a lot of people were agreeing with that. And I almost went and I started typing back and everything. And I'm like, you know what? Let me hold off on that. I'd rather bring this up in a discussion with everybody live on the Buzz Show. So as far as that, I think arm wrestling is changing in a good way. There's a lot of it's getting out there more and all, but I think you're gonna have to learn to kind of balance where self promotion is coming more and more important than it was back in the day. There's couple of big organizations out there, and they only could do a certain amount of super matches. So when you look at that, there's just so many people that want to be on these cards, but you got to stick out some way. You got to say, what do I bring to this promotion that makes me different from everybody else? It's not no longer where you're just a good puller. That's not going to cut it. Now, you could be the best puller, and maybe you're a social awkward person, but because you're the best puller around, that's why you're justified of being on there. But a lot of these guys aren't the best puller. They're very good, but not the best. And I might hurt a few feelings with this, but I'm going to be straight up with it. A lot of you are boring. That's it. It's you got to find a balance. Now, I people misconstrue what I say, and I've been saying it for a long time. You got to have a character. Now, I don't mean something you make up. I mean, let yourself, your personality show. Do something to stand out. Make it that people want to see you. You know, every person has a different answer of what they can to do that. There's no one way to do that. And I'm not saying to be fake in any kind of way, but you got to bring something to the promotion, you know? So you got to learn how to balance. You got to also not be a good puller, but you got to get yourself a YouTube. You got to get yourself out there because that's what the promotion is looking for. End of the day, they're trying to make money. They're trying to get people to want to see these matches. If you're just a decent puller and you're not known out there, what are you bringing to the table? That's the question you have to ask yourself.
Well,
Don't
it's
just
interesting,
expect that
Paul.
these. Yes, Greg. What'd you say, Greg?
I
I didn't hear
apologize.
you, brother.
I get this choppy. Yeah, I get this. I have a choppy connection here, so my apologies. I thought you had cut off for a second though, but I think you hit the nail on the head. When I owned Explode Fight Series, I owned Explode Fight Series for about 8 years, and every athlete that came to me to fight in the cage, they were required to sell tickets and promote themselves, and they all were the same way. They all say, oh, "I can't sell tickets. I can't sell tickets. I can't sell tickets." I can tell you that every time Sean Shelby or Mike Goldberg or anybody out there who was booking talent on the highest end, they wanted to make sure that they could put butts in seats. And they wanted to fill arenas. They wanted to sell pay-per-views. And it didn't matter if you were the best, MMA fighter out there by any means. What mattered is that your following could translate from the regional or local level to the national or world level. And we're finding that now in arm wrestling. I think you're 100% right. You look at the Olympics, Snoop Dogg is carrying the torch. What Olympic sport was Snoop Dogg ever known for? None, right? It's certainly he's a character and he's a polarizing figure. But the only reason he's carrying that torch is because following that's going to hopefully re-energize a world competition that has faltered and failed miserably for probably the last 10 to 12 years. So you have to look at any value or realm of value as a need to be able to collaborate with people that can put eyeballs on your value and boost you in a way that brings viewers, atypical and typical, to the screens. And I think you're right. You need to learn to be more polarizing on a character development end than anything else. Being a good arm wrestler is just not going to cut it. Being a great arm wrestler might get you above and into the higher end, but being someone that's followed and charismatic is certainly something that's going to get you opportunities.
Yeah, we have
You
a
know,
perfect example right there. We got Don Hollywood Underwood. He was on Game of
I,
Arms, and we had all those guys on Game of Arms. And I could say there was maybe a handful that when I first got into sport that stuck after me, and I remembered their names. All the other
yep.
guys, I didn't remember them at all, and I was like, these guys are boring. But Don was one of those guys where it was just polarizing to watch him. What's he gonna say next? What's he gonna do? Like it was just so entertaining. And I think that's one of the keys of the sport is to figure out your niche. And I'm not saying because not everybody's a Don Underwood. Not everybody can be a Don Underwood. But you got to find your niche that stand out. It could be anything. And the main thing is just be you're a real person. I'm not saying, I also see people that go out there and all of a sudden they start being this fake person and they're trying to, and you just feel it. It's just fake. It's not real. And it's
Yeah.
just not working for them and all. So I think
Well,
that is a big part of it, is to find your niche, where you're going to stick out, and, promote yourself. Then the other thing that I want to say, and it's great that I have both of you with these big organizations and everything, is I see these guys get the spotlight, they get the match. And then I don't see no promotion of that event from them. So it's
yeah,
like, yo, you got your try, you got on the big stage, and now you're not taking advantage of it and you're not helping out the promoter. What is going to
right,
make that guy want to bring you back to his stage? You didn't even post anything. You weren't making it fun. You weren't making it entertaining. Look at Devin. Devin, when he takes a match on it, he becomes the whole show.
right,
Every single day, you got 4 or 5 videos going at it, a back and forth. He's making a story. It's amazing to watch, and it's like I
right.
really get frustrating seeing these guys get their opportunity, then they don't do nothing with it. It's just flat. And it's like me being a promoter, I take that to heart. It's like I'm putting up a lot of money here. I'm putting a lot of risk to even try making my money back, and you're not even helping me out. And I gave you your spotlight, and you're not doing your part. Matt, how do you
Well,
feel about that, man? Because I know you got AWE, and do you agree with that in any kind of way?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of those things when you book a person who has a name, who has a following. I mean, the main reason you're doing it is to get attention, to get people to watch the event. They want to watch this person. You say somebody's got 10,000 followers or 100,000 followers or whatever, and you're like, well, hey, their next match is going to be on our organization's card, and you're going to be pushing that, promoting that, and getting the word out there. But you would expect that the athlete would also be doing that from their side as well. But one of those things with promotion in this sport is that I think you're 100% correct, where it comes across very, very quickly as fake if somebody is pretending to be something that they're not, and it's very awkward, and the audience is watching somebody just, and it's very
yeah,
cringy. It's like you got to be yourself. You can't be doing these like something that's just completely out of character, and you could see people like looking at them like, what do you, that's not how you normally talk, like what are you doing? So yeah, but it almost feels like the sport is in a position that reminds me of how bodybuilding was maybe 20 years ago, when it started to transition from you've got to be Mr. Olympia or in the Mr. Olympia top 10 to really be well known and be on the covers of magazines and have a career in the sport. And then it started to transition to the social media side, where people are literally making a living and they've never even entered a contest. They're not interested in winning competitions. They just build a really good physique. They're showing their workouts in the gym. They're talking to the camera. They're doing all sorts of, crazy stuff, but they've got personality. And it's like, this person is probably earning a lot more than some of the top level 1% guys in the actual sport that are competitive. So you can see the same with arm wrestling, where people say, like the arm wrestling whisperer, he's got a massive following. He does compete, but he's not at the top level. He's not an elite arm wrestler, and he doesn't need to be, because his audience that he's built like watching him just arm wrestle random people and just whisper sweet nothings to them while they're doing it. But I think at this point in time, the novelty for the mainstream audience is still there, because they haven't seen, like, they're like, oh, is arm wrestling a thing? Like, what is this? And then when you're showing them different crazy matches or moments that have happened, or your own training techniques, and so many different crazy movements that people do in the gym, it's something different. It's like, oh, it's this new thing, and you can really sort of build an audience just from doing that.
I totally agree with that. But there's the other side to that as well. I'm saying get out there, get your YouTube and all. What a lot of people don't know, I mean, all you guys know with the YouTube and stuff, it's almost like a full-time job. You really, it's not easy. It's not just posting things. You start at zero and you got to start building up, and it's hard at the beginning. You got to put in the time. So with that being said, it also only being a hobby, and you're not really making that money, so it is hard for a lot of people to justify to put in that kind of time and not get a reward, for, maybe a year or two down the line. So it is something that, you're going to have to just grind, put that time in, not just on the table, because we all could just be on the table and pull if, whatever time we have, because we love doing that. But there's more to it. If you want to get out there and self promote and get on these big cards, you also got to put in the time in self promotion. And I was very good at that coming in from my background. I was a fitness model. I also used to sell out huge concerts in National Coliseum. And also, I know how to get out there. I know how to promote myself. I know how to get attention. I know how to get people watching me. And from that, I had lots of opportunities. And a lot of people get mad that I get opportunities like that so early in my career. There's probably a lot of guys out there that are a lot better arm wrestlers than me. And, they would say that, but they don't realize the time I'm putting in with self promotion to get those opportunities. So,
No,
but the other
great
thing
point.
from that that is really annoying also is when you're putting in that kind of time, and then you have the negative and the haters coming at you, and they're going, "Well, you don't deserve to be on that." And on
Hey,
that
that's
exact
a
post,
good
I seen a
thing.
lot of people mentioning names like that and saying, they're not even good arm wrestlers. Why are they getting these opportunities? Well, they're putting in a lot of time to get out there and for people to know them. And one of those guys was James English. He's making a transition from bodybuilder. Now he just had that big match with Orton. Everybody's like, "Yo, this is his first match. Why is this kid getting this opportunity and all?" Because the kid's got a huge following that he worked his ass off for many years to get there. So it goes hand in hand with that. But it's also very hard. We just talked about some people don't have the finances to do it, and now to tell them that they got to start doing a YouTube channel, which they're not going to get paid for a very long time, and they might not never get a match and all. I understand it is hard. Where bodybuilding, there is more opportunity, there is more money in the sport. But if we keep going the way we are, growing the way we are, the money will eventually come. But don't get into this sport and just say, like, I'm in here to get sponsors and all that. You got to work your ass to get there. I mean, look at Don Underwood. He just said 35 years in the sport, man. It was a while for him to get his name out there and to put all that time on the table. And, Don just happens to be one of those guys that knows really how to promote on a big scale, self promotions. I believe you were a wrestler too, man. So, you have the skills to be, in the wrestling and do all that. So Don, when I say all that, is this hitting home for you, brother? Am I on the right course with this?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you're saying all the right things. And let me just say, first of all, if you have haters, you're doing something right. Let me just tell you that. I tell some of the guys, and I'll tell you the same thing. Non-reaction is one of the best things you can do, unless there's some sort of reward for a reaction. I know that you've had heat from multiple people over your comments or things that you've done. And, I've seen some banter back and forth early in your career. And I'm sitting here going, Paul, just let it happen. You know what I'm saying? Bite the earlobe, pain to go away, that kind of thing. But, at the end of the day, everything that you've said, arm wrestling is not a gift. There's tournament arm wrestling for a reason. It's kind of like elementary school. Walk your ass into kindergarten, work your way to 12th grade, and then you get on these big stages, unless you are that less than 1% of great, which you're not going to find. I was a guy that demanded attention or really, really wanted it. I never understood. I didn't allow friendships to happen because I needed them to be right now. So I was always that guy that was kind of the annoying little kid down the street. Man, he just never going away. Well, once you get control of that, you'll find your way. And now when I walk in the room, it's like, everybody's my friend. And it's kind of a curse at the same time, because sometimes you're trying to get some work done, and there's just that one guy that hasn't got to talk to you in 20 years and he thinks you know exactly who he is and you ain't got a clue. And you're just like, oh, hey, buddy, but I take the time, it's important to me to have the fans, I think a lot of people take that for granted. When you get to a certain point, I'm just another arm wrestler. We're all a big family. We don't, I always say it's like if you go to a golf course, you're not going to get to play with Tiger Woods. If you go to a basketball game, you're not going to get to play with LeBron. But if you're in arm wrestling, you get to be amongst the greats, and they're just another guy to you, And when you find those type of people, those are the type of people you want to learn from and be around. My self-promotion, I try and put a lot of effort into being very good at what I do, considering everybody from the promoter to the amateur arm wrestler that just walked in the room. Gregg has been kind enough to give me an opportunity, which there's a bunch of people that could do this job. But when he gave me the opportunity, and I think he'll give you the nod, I turned on business mode. I don't just sit here and kind of gloat or call my buddy and go, yeah, man, I'm the commentator now. No, I get on the phone with every promoter, every podcast, everybody that's important in the world. And Gregg will know this because last week I turned the heat up and I've probably kept him busier than he wants to be. But at the end of the day, Gregg Sharp's name needs to be in everybody's mouth as one of the guys that is somebody that you want to be on his quick call list because he's for real. He's doing what he says he's going to do. He's super humble. And these are the type of people that you want to be around. So guys, remember the name, write it down. He's probably going to be a big time part of the future of this sport. I don't see him slowing down because he don't have quit in him. As far as the entertainment side of it, arm wrestling is one of the most boring things to watch in the world unless you put it together properly. And lately I've been being very vocal. Not lately, I'm always vocal because I don't have a filter and I can give two shits what people think when it comes down to the truth because I'm genuine. I'm never mean about things. I have no problem looking you dead in the eye and tell you what I think, especially if you're one of those guys, that like the internet talk. And Paul, you get a bunch of those guys. But it's a little different when you're looking me 3 inches away from my face. And, that's real human beings right there. So the people you're dealing with, man, they're most of the time irrelevant. So don't even sweat those guys. But, you got to be entertaining. Learn how to arm wrestle. If something, obviously, adrenaline, it's going to come out and it'll come out right. But not everybody's an entertainer. That's why there's tournament arm wrestlers. People like to arm wrestle. And then like Gregg Sharp, Tim Talmy, the other people that's out there paying attention, they know. So don't get too excited to be seen. Just be seen. Be yourself because that's what's going to get you the interview that you're looking for. But, yeah, man, that's kind of in a nutshell. You guys landed everything, man. I mean, I'd love to chime in right in the middle of some of the things you're saying, but you guys are definitely spot on. So
another thing that I want to add on to that is I think a lot of guys don't realize, they want to be in the spotlight. And a lot of times they don't realize what comes with the spotlight is you're going to have 90% of positive stuff, but you're going to have 10% of negative and haters. And believe me, that 10% is a lot louder than the 90%. You got to be strong and be able to handle that. And just like you said, Don, you brought up a good point. When I first was in the sport, man, I came from a different background and all. And where I came from is somebody disrespects you, you go straight right back at them and you handle that problem. I had to make that adjustment in here. It was a learning curve for me, and when people would say things, just like you said, I went barking right back and it wasn't the best way to handle things. Now that I've been in the sport longer, learned a lot, went through a lot of the negative, had a lot of haters and all. Now I know how to handle it. Just like you said, brother. Just click that block button. Not even gonna waste with the negative. But there is a lot of negative that comes
you
with the
don't have
sport
it.
and getting your name out there. And I think a lot of people don't understand that either, and that's something that you also got to learn to juggle, and that's the only way you're going to last in the long run.
Well,
Now, I
you're
want to get
putting it.
into, with that being said, I want to get into the whole what is going on with the World Series of Arm Wrestling. Because I see there's a lot of big things. I see you guys going all over the country, flying around as a crew and all. And what is going on, Greg? I see big things. Tell us about it, brother.
Well, I think I'm more of the John Madden of arm wrestling because I drive that truck all across the country, and I'm at 6,200 miles now since I started back in June. But yeah, it's a weird thing, Paul. I've enjoyed the sport for a little over a decade. I've come to realization early in the sport that life was not blessing me with the acumen on the table, if you will, physically to become a great puller. But I enjoyed it so much, the camaraderie, that it became really a fun value for me to go out. And then once COVID hit, we had that little bit of a turn down and where things were going. And I thought Wall was doing a lot of great things and right things, and they had the momentum, and that dissipated. And my kids were growing up at that point and had grown up. And, I wanted to kind of extend what I was doing in the world of entertainment into the world of arm wrestling, which uniquely enough, I've been in the world of entertainment for 25 years. And I just found it was, a shot for me to put something out there that could be within the box, but outside the box. Season 1 was all about getting, educated. Season 2 was about starting to tell the stories. Season 2 is about to drop. We follow Jody Williams and Jamie Sheldon and Mike Coburg and Justin Green and people that have real life stories and have real value that the end viewer can relate to outside of arm wrestling. We have 15, 20,000 or whatever that number is arm wrestlers out there in the States that watch us through social media channels. But how do we get to that, that 1% of the 350 million or the 2%, the 3%? So my goal was to give the value to the home watcher that, something that they can relate to. And not everybody can arm wrestle. It's a fast sport. It's Don, I think you said it right. It can be a boring sport, but it's our sport. And I looked outside the box. It says, no, there's no one doing the stories. So that's where I wanted to key in on. We got a high-level production team from season 1 and 2 that did a good job, but really weren't equipped on the sports entertainment. So we brought in a better team in season 3. I think Don has seen that. We were flying the drones over tables, and we went from 4 cameras to 12 cameras. And but we spend the time on the Thursdays and the Fridays before the shows, and we interview a lot of people. And that's where my niche is. The money end of it draws the better caliber. I think we saw that specifically in North Carolina. We saw some really high-level legends come to the table for us to work with. I think we're going to see that here in Atlantic City this weekend, and certainly Kansas City and Ogden to finish. But the money draws the pullers, and my job is to tell the story. And if I do it well, I think that we can be very well received on a much bigger level. I think the prize money, I know the prize money I've increased every year for the last 3 years, and, we'll increase it again the next several years till we are certainly the highest paying organization for tournament arm wrestling. And then hopefully the key is and I think we're there because, again, we had some high-level talks this week with some networks. They like what they see. It's all about packaging this up so that way at the end for us, we're able to turn this into a much bigger value to be able to use to grow us. And I may be one of the atypical guys in the world of arm wrestling simply because I've been successful on a couple of different levels, not pretentiously, but I have a successful construction company and some other business ventures. I distribute films and TV series, domestically and internationally. So I have a little bit more financial security where I can kind of go at this a little bit longer, and really put in maybe that extra, legwork, where others may be not able to follow through, and not as a dig, but just as a reality. And I think that's really where the game plan for World Series ends up being. In the end, we're all in the same boat, right? We're all promoting arm wrestling. There's no one person that, in my opinion, that is necessarily more important than anyone else. I think we all have a level of importance, whether it's Engen and East versus West, whether it's the High Five guys, whether it's Tim Talmadge, whether it's Bill Collins. Bill Collins has been around the sport forever, right? It is an amazing promoter. I think we all have a level of contribution that goes into this, growth. Even Corey Miller and LaRae Jenkins, those two guys are coming up with some kind of unique outside the box super series. But I think it just takes us as a community to push it to the next level. And if everybody works together in a way that we understand what really makes sense, and that means, working in a way that we support each other and grow the sport, I think there's room for all of us to win. There would be nothing better for me to be able to take somebody else's product as well as my own and be able to present it to networks. That's what I do. But I think we all have to realize that we have to find some things that you can't see on YouTube. You can't see on a reel on Instagram. And once we're able to do that, I think we become more relevant. And I'm going to give it a shot. We're going to do the house in the spring, where we're going to have Team Sheldon and Team Jody Williams, and we're going to put 6 arm wrestlers together on each team and put them in a house for a few weeks and compete not only on the table, but maybe we'll, without tipping our hats, see if who can hold on to a stripper pole longer, or who's going to be a surfer out there. We're going to have a bunch of really cool things that people in the sport who are traditionalists might say, man, this guy Gregg is really screwing us up, because who wants to see Jamie Sheldon, on a bowling alley, or who wants to see Jody Williams in a pie eating contest? And not that that's what they're going to do, but and it's blasphemous that Gregg is trying to take the sport outside of the sport. But in reality, what I'm trying to do is give people outside of our sport the ability to find it fun and not to see it as boring. And once we do that, I think then we'll see those sponsors really come. It'd be great to get a B-Dubs, or as my daughter would say, or a Bud Light, or some of these bigger sponsors that we talk to on a constant basis, to be able to say, Gregg, you know what? We're going to give you that, that $250,000 to go to 14 or 20 episodes, or, put $250,000 up. We're going to give you the wherewithal to grow the sport. And then once that happens, then I think we all win. Not just Gregg. For me, winning, guys, it kind of is superfluous in a way, because I've done enough in my life. I think that I could certainly watch my kids grow up. My son's a lieutenant in the Marine Corps. Don got to meet him. My daughter's going into her master's at University of Tennessee. She's got a grad student scholarship. I could certainly sit back and run my companies and not do anything and just be Gregg. But I think there's enough to give back, because I enjoy the sport and I want to give back, that I find myself in the position that we're in. And the only thing I can really do, Paul and Matt and Don, is encourage people to come, right? There's always going to be someone who's going to come to a show and say, man, it was an awful show, or it was a great show. If it was an awful show, tell me. That's kind of my point of view. If you want to complain, bring it to me. If you love the show, tell 2 other people. If you hate it, what you saw, come to me. Let me fix it. Let me adjust it. And it'll never be perfect. Mitch Hedberg was a favorite comedian, says, I can only please half the people half the time. The people I can't please were all at my show last night, right? And the value is that we just keep moving, right? And hopefully we make the equations and the connections, and at the end of the day, somebody will look back and say, you know what, the World Series was able to make a positive thing, and that helped 4 other promoters do more. And you look at a guy like Devin Lorette. He is kind of the I would say the ultimate goal for our sport right now, with 1 million YouTube followers, 1 million Instagram followers, and the value of sponsorship and promotion for him is now very simple. But you probably will agree that 20 years ago, when a man was certainly starting to become dominant in the sport, I'm sure he had all the same struggles that everybody has right now. It's taking consistency and time and longevity to get to where he is, and the payoff is real for him. So it's going to take a few more years. The best thing that people can do for us is, I always say it, is participate. Just not in ours, but in everyone's. The things that they could do that are free, or hit that like, subscribe, and notify button. I mean, that's always a big plus, right? I mean, the more we have people following us, the algorithm works better. The rubric of sponsorships fall into our favor. But the thing is, we're all working to push each other up, right? It's hard to get away from negativity, Paul. I can feel you, brother. I can tell you, about 2013, my brothers called me from Las Vegas, and the ESPN radio station is just bashing me for being the promoter that's putting everybody into the UFC and Bellator, and how he does it on the Indian reservation, and how he doesn't use the sports commissions, and how he's such an awful guy. And the answer was, so what, right? You're right. That's exactly right. But at the end of the day, we've got everybody working with us, and we're getting people there. And the goal for me, I hope at year 5, 6, and 7 is that we've created 6, 10, 12, maybe 20 Devin Lorette-esque type social media personalities that people enjoy and love. And those networks come back and say, man, this sport is great. It's just as good as that pillow fighting and cornholing and English darts on ESPN. You guys really need to be seen. So that's the goal. And I think that's where we're at. And that's what I think World Series is really trying to accomplish.
Well, I want to highlight, you made a point in there, and you said you guys are doing the house. Now, I know me and you have talked, but you never actually told me the details and all that. And I am amazed that you just said that. Matt, we just spoke about that a couple of weeks ago on the Buzz Show. We were talking about how we needed a reality show like that, kind of like the UFC did, and just kind of get these guys in a house and let them go about their day and their life and see how they live. This way that non-arm wrestlers could relate with that. They could say, "Oh, I like this guy. That's a character that reminds me of myself," or "I hate that guy. I want to see him get his ass beat." That is key to get into non-arm wrestlers, and I'm amazed that you already have that in the works. And I didn't know that's what you meant by the house when you were saying that. I am really, really think that is the key, brother. And I think the way you're going at it is the way that we're going to be able to get a lot of non-arm wrestlers knowing about our sport. Because it's all great to keep doing the same thing over and entertaining the arm wrestlers, but we're not actually growing the sport by doing that. We need to get more eyes on it, and that's where the sponsorships come in. Matt, right, brother? We were just speaking of that. I think it was like 2 weeks ago on the Buzz Show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we were comparing it to the Ultimate Fighter, which basically saved the UFC from going into bankruptcy. There were $33 million in debt at the point of time when they got that Fox Spike TV deal, and the season was rating averagely, but it was the final that happened between Stephen Bonner and Forrest Griffin that was an absolute war. And the funny thing was, because it was 3 rounds, they had ad breaks in between the 3 rounds. And the ratings you could see were just jumping through the roof every time the round would end, because obviously people are ringing their friends. You got to watch this fight that's on Spike TV, and everyone was jumping on. By the time it got to the 3rd round, there was millions and millions of people watching, and everyone's going, "What is this thing? What is this fighting thing in a cage? I don't know." And it sort of really kicked it off from there. And it wasn't that it was their main stuff with pay-per-view. It was the reality TV show that really got the interest happening.
Yeah, totally, man.
Well,
And Greg, can you go a little more into that, man? I want everybody to know and really understand. We got Jamie Sheldon, we got Jody Williams. Those are two. I love those characters right there, man. That is a good mix right there. So can you kind of like what's the play? I don't want you to say too much that's gonna affect your show or anything, but can you kind of like go a little more into that? And when can we expect to see that coming out? And what is the goal with that? Are you where is that going to be put out there? Is it going on YouTube? Is that going to be sold to a network? Kind of fill us in on all that.
yeah, and I'll keep a little bit in my back pocket, and that's probably why I haven't placed it out there too much. The hardest thing about Jamie and Jody, and I'm going to say this lovingly, is that they're both great guys. And neither of them are heels. I tried to get each of them to talk a little smack about each other in Dallas, and I'm feeding them lines. I actually, at one point, I don't know what kind of rating it is for these shows, so I'll keep it clean, but there was a great line in Tropic Thunder when Tom Cruise looks at Matt McConaughey and says, "No more bitch-ass frequent flyer miles for you." And I tried to get Jamie to do a derivation of that to Jody flying out to Dallas. And Jamie, just being a super good guy, is just like, "No more flying miles for you." And I'm like, "Guys, this is TV. I got to get you. I got to get you guys. Somebody's got to be the heel here." I mean, it's but the whole concept, Paul, is not unique, and I think you're right with what you're comparing it to, because that's what I paired it to. The Ultimate Fighter came at a time where it created the ability to reach the common person and put characters in front of them. And Matt, you also were right that they were deeply in debt. And what it did was it changed the dynamic of personality. And it became relatable. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to become relatable. We just did a show called Bikini Showdown Uncensored, which is basically sold right now. But we're going to collab with them. It's my show, so I can collab with them. But we're trying to create these marriages inside of entertainment in successful concepts and bring them to the sport, and hopefully translate them with the level of success that the others. So we are going to have two teams. They are going to compete for 10 grand. The winning team wins 10,000. And I have it already greenlit by several stream platforms. We're talking with Hulu right now and Paramount and a few others. So there are some good landing spots for this show. It'll come down to editing and content, as it always does, and relatable content. Well, we're going to have a matchup, and the goal is to make it a franchisable show so that after this first year, we'll have whoever the winning team may stay on as a winning team. Maybe we'll bring two other teams. Maybe we'll have 3 or 4 seasons where we'll have an all-star season, and we'll bring back the 4 best teams. But it'll all come down to really the analytics behind it to see what makes the most sense, and we'll make those moves that way. But I'm excited about it. It's different, right? I mean, listen, I can't tip my hand on all the crazy ideas I have. But imagine, 12 guys on tricycles, trying to, go up and down a skateboard park and around a parking lot and see who wins. And, having those be points to the end game, and having arm wrestling be, also the equal touch, right? Because that's what we do. But yeah, I think it's going to be a fun time. We were going to do it in the late fall, but families come first, and Jamie being a father of 3 young ladies, we decided to push it off to early, late winter, early spring, so that way people have the time to be able to dedicate the amount of days we need to shoot. We started in Dallas, and not to tip our hand, but we had a super match out there with Jamie and and Jody to see who gets to pick first. I'm sure that they're character driven, Paul. So wouldn't be surprised if someone reaches out to you, if not myself. You and I have had some talks on showcasing you. But in the end, we want to find it to make it interesting, right? We want to create something that people want to see, that people will stay tuned into. I think, they say if you lose somebody within the first 15 seconds, you've lost them for good. So we want to create something that people are watching for 45 minutes and have some sort of a cliffhanger to get them to come back for the second and third and fourth and fifth episodes. And then we go from there. I'm willing to try. And at the end of the day, that's the best that I can do. If I can put it out there and I can get enough support and we can make something that's has good value, we're going to do well. And the other thing we have is we're going to, I used to box way back in the day, and we're going to kick off Thursday night arm fights. We've got a landing position to do super matches through World Series of Arm Wrestling on Thursday nights. I think it'll be an excellent opportunity to offer more arm wrestlers out there quality platforms to perform on atypical timelines. I don't want to compete with promoters as I'm a promoter on a Friday or a Saturday, but I do want to be able to get that viewer who has nothing to do on a Thursday night, and tune in. Back when I boxed, there was Tuesday night fights on USA Network and Thursday night fights on ESPN. And little does most people know that I was actually asked to fight Butterbean at one point on Tuesday night fights on USA Network.
Wow.
Unfortunately, without, I guess it's not really libelous or slanderous or defamation by any means, because I'm not talking bad about the gentleman, but there was an ask that I not perform at my highest level right around round 3. And I want to not perform at my highest level, and we'll just say that match never amassed itself. And the man who stepped in at that point and took the match decided that he wasn't going to lay down either in round 3 and actually beat him. So, it goes. He didn't get paid, and neither did I. So it happens. But ultimately, I think that trying to get outside of the status quo and put ourselves into some, timelines that people will enjoy, right? I mean, it would be great to be able to see a quality arm wrestling show on a Thursday night, a Tuesday night, a Friday, a Saturday, something that keeps us consistent. And I think that'll also help us find our homes on the network end. We've talked to Showtime as well, and they're pretty interested in arm wrestling, and we just have to find the right equation to make it work. And that's where we're at. And we have
the thing that I love and that we were talking about the other day on the show was I was saying to Matt, we know doing obviously the house would work with the UFC. It was a success and all. But what I was saying to Matt is we need somebody with the connections, because that is the key thing. Anybody could go and put a production together, and well, not anybody, but there is some people out there that can do that. But I kept saying the key is to have the connections. And with you now just telling me your background and all, you seem to be the guy. And I'm loving what I'm hearing, because that's where I've always seen everything stall out. We had the great ideas to put things together, but then when we went to go, we made the pilot and all, and then we went to go to finding network to pick it up. That's where everybody would hit the big hurdle. There would be like a dead end right there, and then it would go by for years, and then it would just fade off and nothing would come of it. But you, with having that entertainment background, you produced other shows, obviously, and all. That is the key factor right there that I believe is going to be different, and it's going to be able to get us on a major network like that. And all it takes is, getting on that one major network and letting them see what you're putting together with this house. I think that's going to be the big one that's going to be like, holy shit, we made it now. Now we're on right after, on prime time, right after wrestling, and we're going to go and get all those fans in there. And that is very, very important. And now I'm feeling very confident that this is actually going to happen, because I did not know your entertainment background. I know you're very successful, and we've talked in the past at events, and I know you were into gyms and you were into construction, but I was not aware of the entertainment, and I think that's going to be the game changer right there.
Well, I hope so. When I got back into entertainment, I think my first awful movie we made in 1998 in Syracuse, New York. And it was funny because I took my daughter back to Syracuse this week and kind of showed her around. And even the buildings we made those awful movies in are gone. But I realized that the one thing that most people don't have the ability to do is take their end product to the networks themselves. And you have to have a distribution company that will ultimately, voice your product to their own value, meaning that if they think they want to put the time in, they're gonna knock on a few doors, and if they get an answer yes, they're gonna follow through. If they get the first door shut on them, they may or may not fight for it as much as you would, and then you kind of put on a shelf. So what I decided to do was I decided to take out that middle level, if you will. I opened Ready, Set, Go distribution and just really started to build the contacts between the Tubies, the Plutos, the Rokus, the Amazons, the Netflixes, the Hulus, the Paramounts. We had a big conversation outside of streaming networks. I was just in meetings with Regal theaters, because one of the things I'd like to do is put an arm wrestling movie together again. So I'm always constantly trying to create more open doors, because not every product that you have fits into one category. And, I have about 120 directors and producers that I represent that require me to do the very best for them. And not every one of their end products fits into, a certain stream. Like a lot of people want to be on Tubi. Tubi pays great right now. But Tubi's, they're particular, right? I mean, they have quality control. I always get the questions of when's season 2 coming out? And I said, we have to get past quality control. We're greenlit. They're not going to stop us, but they will scour that. We have 10 episodes of an hour. So 10 hours of content coming out on Tubi and Pluto. They're going to watch every second to make sure there's no audio drops, to make sure it's color correct, to make sure there's no glitches. So you have to go through that process. And all of those things, once you get past them, then the product can come out and then it can materialize. And as you get better, and we all get better, it doesn't matter if I'm building a house or building a TV series, you start from, foundation and you build up and get better. So as we get better and we find and check, the boxes that require you to have, specific values in it, we're going to be more and more successful. And there's nothing that would help me or make me feel better, to be able to find others much like myself that want to do programs and to sit down and get them to take those great ideas and create something new for their own. That's what I do. It's not, I wish I was a great arm wrestler, Paul. I mean, Travis will tell you that, I'm about 17 years behind the curve, and that's okay. I just don't eat the pancakes that maybe some of those elite guys do. And that doesn't mean that I don't mind yakking it up with them and gripping up and taking my losses. But certainly I truly can say this, and I say it everywhere I go. I don't know that I've ever been in anything I've ever done, whether it was football or boxing or entertainment, where I could literally go to an event and find 50, 100, 200 or more people that I truly enjoy being around and spend 4 or 5 hours and just have a great time. And that arm wrestling community is that community. It really is, I went to Tim Talmadge's last deal in Arizona, which I wanted to go out and support. Never met Uncle John. Certainly Don and I had met via a phone call or two, and we met one time when we were in Kansas City briefly. But you know what? To be able to sit and just talk to guys that I've never met before, have a great conversation, leave with just an incredible positive value. People need to know that this is what we experience all the time. And if I can get it there and I can show people, then then I've done something. And we're going to keep trying. There's not a lot of quit in me. We're going to keep kicking the door until we figure it out. And when we figure it out, we're all going to be successful and kind of look back and say, man, we finally did it after 50, 60, 40, 30, 20 years of trying. And we've kind of made it. So now we're there. And, if that's what I'm known for and not known for a regional title or national title or world title, that's all right. My place in what we're doing is cemented, and I feel good about it because I know that that'll carry on. So, anytime you guys got ideas or something you want to run by me or talk about, I'm always open for that. Trust me, I can't tell you how easy and fun it is to sit and try to help people move to a positive win situation, because in the end, I want to see everybody win. And that may be cliche-ish, but it's really true. I don't really want to see anybody lose, because one person that loses, we all lose in some way. One person who throws a tournament that doesn't pay, or a tournament that doesn't work, or has some sort of bad connotation to it, we all suffer a little bit. We're in a very visible sport, so making sure we all win on some level is extremely important. And I can't emphasize that enough.
Matt, can you please do me a favor? Can you send Scott Wynn a link? He's asking to come on, and I know he has a lot of experience in the entertainment world, and Scott being in the sport for close to 40 years now, I think he would be a good addition to this chat that we're having right now.
No worries.
I also want to say, Gregg, you are in great company with, obviously Don Underwood is believing in you, knowing that he's been in the sport 35 years, seen many promoters and organizations come in and, try to do what you're doing. And, he's standing by your side. He's telling everybody this is the guy. So I want to hear from you, Don. What makes Gregg different, and what makes you believe that he's going to bring us success to get the non-arm wrestler watching our sport?
I kind of said it in a nutshell earlier. The guy's genuine, and he does what he says he's going to do. That's one of the most important things. I can't tell you how many times somebody's come up with a bucket of money and got everybody in the room, and then something happened and no pay, and they're collecting all this money. I mean, there's been so much fraud in the past. Gregg's got this market cornered. Like he said, he's been working in the entertainment business for many, many, many years. You don't just make a pipe. He has controlling interest in his own company. So it's like AMC or McGilla or these other companies where they have pestering, producers banging on their door literally all day long. They don't care. It's like nagging rain when you're playing golf. It's just, you just want it to be gone. Gregg don't have that problem. He is creating his own. He is funding his own, and he's found a way to make it work. But that doesn't change the fact that he's treating people the way that he's treating them. When he gave me the opportunity, like he said, we met a few years ago, and we talked about working together, and it just kind of went away. I wasn't really at, the high point of excitement for arm wrestling then. Normally I would have, definitely been closing the gap on conversations. But when he showed up at Arizona State, we put him in front of the camera, and we had an exceptional talk. And I think he's seen the professional side of me. I can be a clown, I can be friendly, I can be mean, but at the end of the day, the professionalism and putting a product out is what I pride myself on. And Gregg was able to sit down next to me, and we had a good conversation that made sense, that everybody could understand, and we was able to promote him and talk about the things that were important. And at the end of that conversation, he offered me a position to work with him, which super honored. Again, you never know what to look forward to. Went to the first deal with him last week at Camp Lejeune. I was there for 5 days, Gregg is not somebody that's going to crack the whip. I was just in awe that I didn't have to do as much as I anticipated. Got to relax. The work that I did, I was relaxed enough to do 100%. And he made it simple. The production team that he has is not in the way. They are smooth. They know what they're doing. The added drones was a super spectacular deal. I'm running around, being the creative guy that I am. I'm crawling through attics trying to find, little cracks in windows that we can do aerial views. And so I run up to Gregg and I'm like, hey, man, we got this. He goes, yeah, man, I got drones. I'm like, shit. If I'd have known that an hour ago, I'd have been in a lot better shape. So, the reason that I'm saying this is because it's an example of a guy that has his thing in order. He's cool as the other side of the pillow. Even with me goofing off, I grab a bottle of smelling salts and I start goofing off with it. And I blow some toward Kayla Talmadge, not knowing it was going to completely wreck her. She starts coughing and hacking. And I'm like, oh, being a 6-year-old that I am, mentality. And Gregg comes over like the principal and grabs it up, and Don, shaking his head. He's over there, thinking, man, have I made the right decision here? And, at the end of it, we got to laugh about it. I learned a good lesson. But that's just me, man. I'm always going to be doing something, but the entertainment value will come with it. I just wish that was on film, because that's got kind of stuff that people want to see, and that's me. I'm the entertainer. But for him to handle that situation professionally, we talked about it. And like I said, he made a comment about, some things that I had no idea that, there's people out there that genuinely do not want him to be successful. They do not want him to do the things that he's doing. And it comes back to the comment I made to you, Paul, and that's when there's haters out there, you're doing something right, And the comment he made to me, after that, it made me think a little bit. And it made me real proud to be working with him, because for him to move forward and not to be concerned, and not even to say it purposefully, but, I got 2 ears and 1 mouth. I know I move my lips a lot, but my ears are working harder. And that I tell you, makes a big difference in who I am and what I can do. And that all runs back to when you give me an opportunity. I have a call list, what I call my Rolodex, and my girl Buffy, she laughs, just shows my age, because I do. I have a very deep call list. I have a lot of connection, and I try to make most of them good. I know that not everybody likes me. I don't care. At the end of the day, I'm probably still going to be on their card, and that just tells you who I am. So Gregg has already got my respect. And I'm working my tail off. He doesn't know it, but I'm on the phone all day. I run my phone out of battery by 2:00 and I'm recharging. There's a couple other guys I work with, and I do the same for them. But Gregg's got the corner market. He can getting this stuff on the air. And like I said, I don't think anybody's going to run him out of town, man. He's his own entity. He's the sheriff. He's got nobody to, tell him to go left when he wants to go right, and so forth. So as long as he continues to do the things that he's doing and working the way that he is, I'm telling you, man, if you ain't got his name in your mouth right now, you're looking in the wrong direction. The guy is absolutely doing everything right, and I'm proud to work with him.
I appreciate that.
Matt, did you get that? Did you send Scott that link? Because he's blowing me up right now.
Yeah, I've sent it to him on Facebook Messenger, but I just had to send it. I'm not friends, so I had to send a friend request at the same time. So it's probably, if he accepts the friend request, then he'll see the message.
Okay, so Scott, you heard that, brother. It's sent to you, man. So take care of that. I want to follow up with that and to give an example, because maybe a lot of people don't know my background and all. I come from the fitness model world and all, and I got onto a reality show over there. There was a big tryout over at Bev's Francis Gym in Long Island, New York, which everybody knows that's the big East Coast Mecca. And there was I think 500 people that showed up for that day, all fitness models trying to get on this show. So what we did different is rather than just coming as individuals, there was 5 of us. We were called Team Shredded. We walked into this place with our shirts off, like we own it. The whole place just froze, and they're like, "Who the hell are these guys?" Well, including the people that were, trying everybody out, saw us, and they're like, "Yo, you guys cut the whole line. We want to hear what you said." We came in there with this whole line. I mean, this was back a while ago, and that was when Jersey Shore was hot, and it was like the hot thing. And we just came in there. We're like, "Yo, we're what Jersey Shore should have been." And their whole place, just their mouth just dropped. They went out into the hallway and they said, "We got what we need. Everybody go home." Got locked in right there. So now the next thing they did is they had us make a pilot and all. Made the pilot success. They said we're gonna go with this. It was left right production. We're not talking about mama papa. This was like a real production company and everything. So they had us sign the contracts and all. We got 1 season. We got paid each episode. Traveled us all over the country. We were going doing the clubs, filming at Beb's Francis gym. That was like the headquarters where everything was going from. And this went on for a year. So I'm like, I got past the pilot. I've been on a bunch of other things where you get to the pilot, you think you got something. Everybody keeps saying we'll be in touch. Years go by, nothing. It would just fizzle out. So I thought we were like, we're golden. And if they would have been paying us paychecks and all this, we filmed the whole first season. Now, mind you, this was a ball. This was crazy. They're flying us down to Miami. They're renting us these penthouses. They're letting us just party away, and they're just filming everything. Where I grew up in New York, where I'm going into the clubs there, and I have like camera crews follow me around. Everybody I grew up with is in these clubs. They're like, "What the hell is going? What do you got?" They're like, "Holy shit, you made it!" and all. Well, taped the whole first season. It was probably about, I think it was like 7, 8 months of taping and all. Then Left Right merges with another company. The staff at the top changes. Just like you said, brother. Now the person with the battery in the back is not the head honcho anymore. Now they got to answer to somebody else. This person had a whole nother vision. They put us on the shelf. I'm like, we filmed the whole first season. We got paid and all, had a great time and all, but it never went on. What you're telling me right now, which is different, is you're going to do it all yourself. You practically don't have to sell it to anybody. You're the man that has the connections. You're connected to the network. So that right there is golden. And that's the furthest point I've ever seen anybody get, because you don't have to depend on somebody else, to do it. You know your vision, you know what you want to do. You're able to do exactly that. That's it. Bingo. So I think that is going to be key for you, brother. And I'm very happy to hear this. And I think that's going to be able to really, really take arm wrestling to a whole nother level. And I'm wishing you the best, brother. And anything I can do to help you out with that, I mean, this is gold, man. So I really believe in what you're saying. Seeing Don Underwood traveling around with you, this man knows arm wrestling. This man is arm wrestling. He obviously sees something. He knows this is the real. I mean, he's been around during UAL, WAL, and he's by your side. So I really have belief in this, and I cannot wait to see the finished product. And I really hope that it goes to that big network, because I truly believe that if people just knew about our great sport, knew about all these wonderful characters that we have in it, it's so magnetizing, man. And it's not just going on there and just throwing some super matches and trying to get these people to sit down that aren't into arm wrestling. They don't understand the fouls. They don't understand the rules. We kind of lose them with that. But now the way that you're building up on, you're telling the whole story. You're seeing these guys live their life. It's not just arm wrestling. It's showing the behind the scenes. It's gonna make them associate with somebody on there. And that's the main thing. It's when somebody can say, "Yo, I look up to Jamie Sheldon. That's the guy. He's just like me. If he could do it, I want to go and do that. I want to inspire to be him." And you're telling the story this whole season through. And then at the end, now you're invested. Now, when you have these matches, these super matches, it's not just two strangers you're looking at that you don't understand. You're vested in it. You got to see the whole lead up. You got to see all the drama. Who don't like who? Now they finally get to see on the table they're going to settle this. And I think that is the selling point of arm wrestling. Because when I seen Game of Arms, I was just like, this is the coolest thing, man. I want to go and do that. That is really, really cool. It wasn't just the arm wrestling. It was like the whole setting and, Don Underwood beefing with Travis Bazin. That was just like, oh shit, man, this is real. You took your side. You like, I want to see Don shut Travis up. That guy runs his mouth so much. Or the other way around. So I think this is the way you're approaching this. I really like. It's different. And we've seen it. It worked for UFC big time. And I mean, we don't got to reinvent the wheel. We got something that works. Now we're going to incorporate it into our sport. And I think that is a very good thing. I also want to get Matt's opinion on this because, Matt, you have a big organization and all. What do you think about this? Is there anything that you could see that you could maybe like throw in as a tip to him, or is there anything like that you would recommend to throw in there? Like, what's your whole thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, if you've watched enough reality shows, you very quickly identify the formula that they all tend to follow, and that is to get very interesting, crazy, polarizing characters and then create drama based around that. And a lot of the time, the drama is semi-scripted. It's like, hey, guys, oh, microphone's flying over. There we go. It's sort of like the go and have a fight with him, throw something in his drink and then you get angry about it. And, they sort of create those situations because it's interesting when you're watching a show to have conflict. If everyone's getting along, everyone's nice and respectful, it's boring. You need to have a reason to be watching. And so when you build that around a sport that is a real sport, has a real consequence and real result, you can build the character any which way you like, but then when they get on that table, that result is a real, it's a real match. And so a lot of the time you can get people that you despise and then they end up winning the match, and it makes it even worse from like an audience perspective because you're like, damn it, that guy I hate, he won his match. You see that with like Jake Paul and all those guys that are doing those big boxing matches that haven't gone through like a reality show, but they've created their audience through their own YouTube channel. And they're putting out these boxing matches and boxing events where it's like they're getting these $100 million paydays because they've got a massive audience of people that, well, most of them probably hate them and want to see them lose, but they'll pay the money and pay the attention to see them log in and hopefully get knocked out. Which has worked out the opposite because they keep winning and doing it quite well. But I think that sort of sticks it to the people even more, and then that sort of creates even more interest. But Gregg's obviously been around the entertainment industry; he'd know the formula for that. But yeah, it is about picking your characters very selectively, and it's not always based on skill. People that are not at the elite level, not at a fantastic level, but they're just so charismatic. It's like every time I put this guy on camera, the screen lights up and it's like it's just drama, and it's like you almost care about that more than what happens in the resulting match. So I'm sure that Gregg has all of those formulas and those ideas, and the first season's already been shot. You're probably in that editing process now to create those drama type moments.
Yeah, you're right, Matt. I mean, it's there are things that work. I mean, it's the proverbial, train wrecking, right? I mean, that's you have to have a hero, you have to have a goat, right? In Don will tell you in wrestling, you have to have a baby face, you have to have a heel. You have to have good and evil in all of these type shows, and it doesn't need to be really evil, but you have to have someone that's conflicting. Because if everybody is getting along real well, then nobody's going to want to watch it, right? I mean, you got 5, 6, 8, 10 guys that just get along well, but what matters is in the integrity of the show that you put together. Is you can't fake the athletic result in what this is all about. So the integrity of the sport has to stay consistent. However, there is some character development. I think we all need that as in anything we do in entertainment. And once you kind of dial that in, you can put the right people in the right places. And there's a lot of guys that would fit into a TV show because of their abilities, but at the end of the day, they just don't translate well as a character, to the video screen and the TV screen. So, I think we have a good equation to get us off to a great start. And the other thing is you never know who's going to really turn that light bulb on when you put them in front of a camera, right? I mean, we there's some really goofy guys in the world of arm wrestling that I've met, and in a nice way. You look at Scott's there. Hey, Scott, how are you, brother?
I'm good.
One of the most watched videos is when Johnny Dabo decides that he wants to take a swing at Scott, and Scott decks him. But if you watch Johnny Dabo outside of that, when he's arm wrestling, he's a character. He shouts out America. He shouts out Gavin, Newsom's, jokes. He's not very successful on the table, but people love to watch him lose.
Right.
But here's the thing. If we put him on camera and the camera light goes on, does it translate? Does that character go away? And maybe it doesn't. You put somebody like Jody Williams on camera. He in his own way, I would say in a nice way, Jody is a jobber of life, right? I mean, he's had a horrific situation with his son, but he gets up every day, goes to work, he works his shifts, he comes home. He's a loving father. He has 2 children. He's got a great wife. He would be someone on paper that you may look at as boring, minus the horrific battle he went through with losing his son. But when you put him on camera, he's a different entity. He translates out well. He comes across as confident but not cocky. He can come across as cocky. He can come across as controversial in some ways. So you never know. We're going to go through that first season and hopefully we find a few diamonds in the rough. We can polish them up and put them out there and turn them into, some bigger diamonds. It's interesting. A lot of people equate success to individuality. Oh, here it is. Great video. But, it's a compilation. World Series of Arm Wrestling has opened up opportunities with other TV shows and other opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So there's that big right hand. So that's what this is for me. I mean, we may make it on one show. We may not make it on the other show, but we're going to keep opening those doors and finding what it needs to take to be successful. And, you never know until you try. They say, 100% of all putts that are never taken never go in, and we're going to keep putting the ball, or we're going to keep swinging for the fence. And, for Paul's sake, they say that you can't play left field for the Yankees with your back to the batter. And what that means is, if you're watching the crowd and listening to the crowd and viewing the crowd, you're never going to be a successful left fielder. But if you turn around and watch the guy who's taking the swing and you're catching the balls, you might make it into the Hall of Fame at one time. So yeah, I mean, I think that's where I'm at.
Oh, yeah. I want to hear from Scott Wingers. I know you were hitting me up and you really wanted to get on here, brother. So I wanted to kind of hear what your whole thoughts on this whole thing is.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening in a little bit. I was just curious because there's a little background with me and Gregg. I don't know if that was discussed or not, but a lot of these ideas were discussed prior to a lot of these things that are being said on this show right now. And I hear what he's saying about, I hear what he's saying about working together, which that's the key. Obviously, that's what I've been preaching for the last 6 years now, and everybody keeps going different directions. They're grabbing other ideas from other people and they're trying to run with it. and it's like a community thing that needs to be done, because the way I see it is, if we don't pull together and make it happen within ourselves, it's not going to ever happen. You know what I mean? And that's still the way it is now. And what Gregg's talking about, as far as like, there's been a few things talked about as far as like the getting the house and having team events. That was all discussed already. We've talked about that in detail before. But I mean, just to go back to kind of where me and Gregg partnered up for, I think, 48 hours or something like that, Gregg? It was a short little term.
I can't hear you, Scott. You're breaking up on me over here.
It was just, can you hear me, Paul?
Yeah, I can hear you, brother.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, you're back.
Me and Gregg partnered up for like 48 hours. He was going to help me with the Mr. Olympia event in Orlando, Florida in 2021. And unfortunately, there was a clash of characters there with Marvin Cohen and Gregg, not knowing each other at all, never met, but they didn't. Gregg heard about Marvin and basically said, "Hey, I don't want nothing to do with him." He thought I had blindsided him, which I didn't blindside him. He was bringing in the money, and the thing was still coming together as we were developing the whole project. Unfortunately, Gregg said he wanted out, and I basically respected his decision and said, "Hey, I understand. I know Marvin Cohen's got a background, a lot of hearsay, a lot of truth." He said, "I want nothing to do with it if Marvin's involved." So I said, "Okay, cool. That's cool. We'll not do it." So he decided that he made a long post on the site and said that he was, first he was in, then he was out, and now he's developed his own World Series of Arm Wrestling, which I think is awesome. I think everything he's done up to this point is pretty cool. I've offered to help him several times. I'm in the movie industry. I've been in it for 30 years. I've been in the union. I can build anything that you put in front of me. I can literally build. So I know for a fact I could help Gregg out a lot, but I don't know if there's some type of friction there. It didn't seem like there's friction there, but I definitely don't have a connection with you, Gregg. And I'm offering that to you now, as I have before. I want this thing to succeed more than anybody. I've been in the sport for 40 plus years. And I've watched everything from over the top to Yukon Jack to the NFL to you name it. And I've watched the ups and downs of it. I know the formula, I know the format, and I know the stage. So I hear you talking about what you want to do, and I know a little bit about your background. I understand you've developed your own so-called production company, which is awesome. I just want to clarify that, these ideas have already been out there, obviously. And again, we all have to work together to make it happen. It's not going to happen with one person, a one-man show. And again, if you think that just grabbing names is the success to the story, it's not. We've already tried that. That formula has not worked. It's not successful. As you said, like John Dabo's perfect example. He's a character. Right? People will either love him or they'll hate him. So that's a good aspect to a show per se, but we don't want to be Game of Arms. Game of Arms was really cool, but Game of Arms wasn't what arm wrestling was about, right? We didn't meet in empty slaughterhouses with beer cans and babies in our hands and throwing money like I'm going to bet money on so-and-so to win from Louisiana. That's not the reality of it. Even though the show was somewhat successful and the cinematography was awesome, it wasn't depicting arm wrestling like it should be, So I think that, again, if we work together truly and loyally, then we'll make a big difference together. We can all jump on that bandwagon and follow the smoke every time somebody comes along and says they got this great idea. I'm all behind him. I'm all for him. And then obviously the next bandwagon comes along and your bandwagon starts to linger a little bit. Then they jump onto the next bandwagon. We got East versus West, King of the Table. What's next? WAL, UAL. When are we going to take it to the next level? And how's that going to happen?
Well,
right?
Scott, can I say one thing about that? First off, I didn't know anything of your guys' past or anything. I had no clue with that. So, I'm just learning all this now. Um, as far as what Greg is doing, I didn't know that arm wrestling actually tried where they did like the reality show like UFC did where they're having the athletes in a house. Who actually did that? They've tried that before?
We've talked about that. We're talking about Game of Arms did that, right? Without being in a house, obviously. Now the same aspect is we talked about. I've talked about this with you, Paul. I talked about getting a big warehouse. I can, and Greg, you told me you have warehouses, so I can build with inside a warehouse. A warehouse is a studio. That's all that is. If you make it into a studio, it's a studio. I can build rooms for people to live in. I can build the stage that I vision that will be an icon for arm wrestling. So it's like those type of things. That's what I'm talking about. Working together. I've been in the sport again, I'll say, a long time. And I've won world championships. I've won nationals. I'm not just another arm wrestler as I'm depicted on World Series of Arm Wrestling. I'm actually a national multi-champion arm wrestler. Unlike Allen and Vaskin, I have more titles than both of those two put together. I can guarantee you that and prove that. So I don't understand the concept of of grabbing certain names and trying to make them bigger and using and thinking that motto is going to grow the show. It's like you said, John Dabo, that's a great character. John isn't that great of an arm wrestler, granted. He's not a bad arm wrestler either. He's right there. If he was trained a little bit more and ate some more pancakes, who knows? He could be the next world champion. There's no doubt about it. But the formula is somewhat simple. Nobody's following it and nobody's doing it. So I'm just saying, from my personal view, again, we have to pull together, all of us, to make this happen. And if we keep going,
But I'm not following you, bro. I'm not following because it seems like you're resistant in a way. You're like that Greg's way is not gonna work, and that like it's been tried, but I don't believe Game of Arms is the same thing that he's trying to achieve because when they did that UFC reality, it was real, bro. It was these guys living in a house. Preparing for that super match they have at the end of the season. You got to see them living day to day. He's talking about going and just, doing other things than just arm wrestling and getting people to associate with these characters in a way.
correct.
So
Yeah,
I
that
get what
is
you're saying with the Game of Arms, but I think he's going at it at a different way, and I like the way that he's going at it, and I don't think it's actually been tried yet. And I
no, it
I, I,
hasn't.
I truly
It's
believe.
only yeah, it's only been talked about, Paul. That's what I'm saying. This has
Yeah.
been
So
talked about.
what
This has been
is
discussed, and it's in the works already. It's already in the works. It takes time. Now, if Greg's bringing his own cash or his own capital or his own backers, great. I'm not saying anything against it. Is what I'm saying is let's work together. You know what I mean? Now, if he's got a problem bringing me in because I brought Marvin Cohen into the picture, then that's a vendetta between me and Greg, I guess. I don't know anything else that's between Greg and I. So I don't know why.
Well, Scott, I'd like to jump in real quick.
Sure.
It's an interesting value of conversation that you're bringing. And the reason I say that is because I've asked you now the last several years to referee, which you have, and support and be a part of WSA and compete. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We had a conversation to get together multiple years ago. And listen, if we want to rehash that, I'd be happy to. I don't think that there's really a conversational value to it. I think you know what went on behind the scenes, and I had to divest myself, though, Scott, of the situation because you put me in a very precarious situation. When you put someone of unequal value into an equation, and you looked at that as a value to what you were doing, I can't fault you for that. But you put my money at risk and jeopardy and my reputation with Marv Cohen. And in doing that, I had to divest myself. And that's the truth. You decided not to tell me what you were doing when you went to Florida and I saw you on a YouTube video announcing it with Paul, with a bunch of characters. Alan, I think, was one of them, or somebody else was down there. And instead of coming to me prior and telling me, hey, I'm going to go down and talk to Marv, and we're going to do this, and what do you think, partner? What are we going to do? You ended up doing it on your own. And at that point, as I am at this point, I have at least a business reputation and a value that's at stake when somebody else is going to use my name as a checkbook. And so we cut it off. We did it in a way that was very professional, very articulate. I never wished you anything but well and success in those posts, and I still do. You still come to my events. I have no issue with you at all, Scott, in terms of a person or a business person. You've made your own decisions. That's great. But going forward, I'm using my own platform, my own money, my own time, my own production people. And listen, I understand that some people within the industry, because we're independent and not a unionized type organization, when in terms of my production, that sours people as well. I'm able to do things at a lot lesser cost. I'm able to do a lot of things that most people can't because I have those business connections. It doesn't mean that you and I don't talk from time to time. We've had conversations before, and listen, we'll have more conversations in the future. But in order to do this, we have to be ultimately, completely transparent. And in doing that, then we can start bringing ideas together that kind of make sense. Is the house anything unique? Absolutely not. We said that through this podcast. The Ultimate Fighter did this, to begin with, many, many years ago, right? So I'm not, I talked about doing a remake of Cheers, right? Cheers was a great bar show. I actually have people that are working right now with me. We're opening up bars across the country and doing a show that's dealing with bars. The first thing I said to him, I said, listen, what's hot right now in Hollywood? Remakes of old shows. Let's do a remake of Cheers. So the answer is that I think good ideas that are recycled and redeveloped may never make the same pinnacle of success, but I think there's still success in value that can be made, and that's why we put the house out there. Is it unique? Absolutely not. Have we had conversations like I've had conversations with a lot of people on it? Absolutely. Does that mean that it's going to be 100% successful? Maybe not. But I'm willing to put my money behind it, and I'm willing to control it in a business way that it's ethical, it has integrity, and that it has at least a chance to succeed from my point of view. Not from anybody else's point of view, from my personal point of view. And when I do that, then success or not, I'm the only one that has to blame. If I make it, then I can take the kudos and share it down the stream, if you will, of people that work to make it successful. And if we don't, then I take the blame as the guy on top. That's just the way business and life is. But at the end of the day, ultimately, that the check and the name on the check has Gregg Sharp's name on the bottom right. And when that's the case, I have to look at every opportunity and every business decision as one that can affect everything I do. And that's a reality. So to answer your question upon coming together, Scott, you have my phone number. You've texted me before. We've talked before. There's no reason why when we get off this podcast, other than it's 11:30 here on the East Coast, there's no reason why you can't call me and talk to me. I've never not taken your call. But the reality is that I've created a business opportunity that I think that I'm running with in a good way. And I'm going to keep doing it until I find the roadblock. And then if I find it, then I'm going to have to either figure out how to go over top of it or around it. Sometimes we bring more people in. You talk about Alan as a person. He's our web designer. A lot of people don't know that Alan puts our websites together. There's a lot of people that work with me behind the scenes that you would be surprised to get a paycheck from me to work with me in a way that's from the arm wrestling side of life, and we grow. So if you want to be a part of that, Scott, certainly the door is open to talk. How many times have we been at Mendy's gym in LA? You've never pulled me aside and said, hey, Gregg, I really want to talk to you in private. How many times am I up in LA? You've invited me to your house, and I appreciate that. You've invited me to practices. I appreciate that as well. But there's no reason why you can't pick up the phone and say, Gregg, next time you're in California or up in Burbank or, at your office, stop in. I really want to talk to you. I'd like to try to put something together with you. I'd like to be a part of it. Or I'd like to get your opinion and see if what I'm doing, or you can help me do what I want to do. So I don't know that door is not open, Scott, but I do know that, in any value of conversation, there has to be transparency. And we didn't kick it off real well when that happened with you and Marv. And to me, that's water under the bridge. I hope after this conversation, it's water under the bridge for you as well. But it really is, it's a matter of picking up the phone. If you'd like to talk, why not? I mean, you're an amazing set creator, right? We've talked about that. You're a union carpenter, a union set director. You've got a lot of skill set in your portfolio. There's no reason why you can't work with us in a successful way. But we may not be in the same financial zone. What you do is a very high-end financial zone, right? What I do is an independent. We're not talking apples to apples when it comes to those two scales. You're used to working on multi-million-dollar projects. I'm used to funding a couple $100,000 independent movies and TV series to get them going. I still do very well at what I do, but I don't delusion myself to think that I'm Disney or MGM or any other big house out there, or Sony or Paramount. I'm Gregg Sharp. And I've got good people around me, and those good people will continue to be good people, and we're going to continue to do good things. So, the ball is in your court with that, Scott. I have never stopped answering your phone call or taking your messages. So
well, I know we've had a few opportunities to get together. I know you said you're going to be out my way. We were going to grab some lunch, and I guess things just didn't work out as far as that goes. But I did have one question for you, and I'm glad you got the door open, because I wasn't sure about that. That was kind of something I was curious about, because I'm not your competition and you're not my competition. I hope we're trying to do the same thing. I know that when you and I first talked about teaming up, you had said you wanted to build something big enough to sell at some point. And I told you that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in building the sport and sticking with it. I'm not interested in building a show and then finding somebody to buy it from me because it's of interest for a big production now, which I think is a great idea for you. It's not my, that's not my vision, though. I guess I wouldn't say no to millions of dollars either. Right. And I kind of said the same thing to Paul. When me and Paul first sat down together, we talked about this whole United Arm Wrestling League and a membership league to build up a pool of money to be able to pay out to the athletes. And as it builds, the more money that goes out. And Paul said, listen, I just want to make a name for myself right now. As a promoter, I'm not interested in that. But when I do what I want to do, I will help you succeed at what you're trying to do. And Paul has. He's offered to help to do exactly that. So bottom line is, like I said, let's try to work together. We're not competition. We're all trying to achieve the same thing, I hope, and that's to make arm wrestlers money and making them into professional athletes. My personal opinion, it's going to be a matter of teams that are created throughout the U.S. that compete against each other, like any other national or American league, as far as basketball, football, any sport basically that competes against each other has a following because they have a team that all the people are behind because that's their local team. So that's my vision and seeing the success of this going further. As far as the house goes, I also think that's a fantastic scenario where everybody lives under the same roof and you have 4 teams, as I've stated before. That's the same way that the competition would take place. As teams, you would have 4 teams show up, compete, winning team goes on to the finals. 4 more teams, winning team goes on to the finals. If there was $1 million prize for that championship team, guess what? We've got professional arm wrestling on board.
Well,
Scott, hold on, guys. Can I just chime in for a second?
Sure.
I got to defend Gregg here, Scott. I think you're wrong here, brother.
I'm not against them.
But Scott, hold on. You tried connecting him with Marvin Cohen. That's putting his name on with Marvin Cohen. What did Marvin Cohen do at that Olympia, bro? How many people got fucked over and he didn't do what he was supposed to do?
$80,000 in prize money, Paul. What do you
bro.
mean?
And he didn't pay the right people, bro. I know the person that put up that money,
Oh,
and he
I'm
got
not.
fucked over that, bro.
Yeah, I'm not defending
So
Marvin.
that would have been great. Hold
I
on,
never.
Scott. I let you talk. Now hear me out.
Okay, make sure you know what you're saying, Paul.
I know exactly because I know that person. I'm good friends with that person from that guy from New York, from New Jersey. I stayed in touch with that guy, and I know the real story, bro. He got fucked, never got paid anything. So
I
that
got
would have been
fucked.
on Greg Sharp.
I got
Hold on,
fucked,
hold
Paul.
on, hold on. Can I talk?
Yeah.
So he's attaching his name to somebody that screws people. That guy is also was supposed to throw a major event and then pulled out the night before. He did that in the past. Why would Greg Sharp want to put his name, his money on somebody like that? I understand that.
Okay.
That's not right to put and say that. And then a whole other thing. Hold on, Scott.
Okay.
You have this vision, bro. Put up your money. Do your vision, bro. You don't need anybody else to do that. Greg is putting up his money 100%, and he's going with something he believes that's his vision.
Sure,
It
buddy.
doesn't have to be your vision. You're not putting up the money. When you came to me with your thing, I said, bro, that's not what I'm trying to do. I have another vision of my way. But you've been in this sport 40 years, and all I keep hearing out of you is, you got to do it this way. Well, my man, take your fucking money and put it where your mouth is. But to come and start attacking all these people like that, we got to listen to you. You've been here 40 years. Why haven't you did it?
40 years. Okay, Paulie. I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. So my vision was Greg is an intelligent, very intelligent businessman. Okay. I didn't blindside anybody. All this was happening simultaneously. Okay. Marvin, as you know, I brought Marvin in because Marvin brings money to the table. Okay. Greg and I talked. What are you shaking your head for?
Because I was sitting in the living room when the whole place that was there, staying in that house, nobody was getting their money and everybody was about to riot, bro. He was about to fuck everybody over. He made a bunch of
And who was on the
promises.
phone? And who was on the phone the whole time? Who was on the
Bro,
phone
you were
making
sweating
sure
your ass off because you didn't know what he was doing.
I was
I
what?
know the guy that took the hit for that. He's not in the arm wrestling world,
That
but
dude's
he is
full
a
of
good
shit.
friend of mine now.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad that's a friend of yours because that dude lied to me from the beginning. He told me he was a website creator. What do you think of
Bro,
that,
he
Paul?
got swindled for that $80,000 he
No,
put
he
up
wrote
and
it
didn't
off,
get one
bro.
penny.
He wrote
That would have
all
been
that
on
money
Greg
off.
Sharp
That's all he
because now
did.
Greg Sharp would have been with his
Dude,
name attached to that.
Salim wrote that money off. Don't think that dude's some green thumb guy. You know better than that. Don't go there, Paul.
He if you want to know the truth, he took it from one of his investors. The guy has a financial firm and he invests money. He pitched exactly Marvin's thing to one of his top investors that he's made a lot of money in the past, and that guy believed in him. That guy had to go and pay him back the 80 grand out of his pocket just to keep that guy still working with him. That's not good business. You just said Greg is a smart businessman. A smart businessman is not going to get in bed with a guy that has a background of fucking things over. Did he not back out of a big event that he put up a lot of money the night before and Bill Collins had to come in and save the day? Did that not happen in the past before I was in the sport?
That's one of many. One of many.
So
Yeah,
how could
listen.
you hold that against Greg for not wanting to work with him? I don't get that.
Well, okay, so you're misunderstood because I'm not holding that against Greg. Okay, this is what I was saying as far as Greg's concerned. Greg's the type of guy that don't let shit like that happen. Greg's straight and narrow, bro. He dots the I's, crosses the T's. That's why I wanted Greg to be there because I know no shenanigans could happen. Regardless, it would have never happened. I took the
But
brunt.
why would Greg want it? If Greg
Paul.
has the
Let me
money,
finish, Paul. Let me finish. So I who got burned at Mr. Olympia? I got burned, dude. I'm the one that
bro,
got.
you didn't put up a penny, bro. You burnt your time. There's a big difference for putting up $80,000 and wasting a
Dude.
weekend hanging out with your friends, bro.
Man, unbelievable.
What do you mean unbelievable? There's nothing that I said is not factual here. But for you to start coming on here and like Greg backed out and all, yeah, I would have too, bro. Marvin Cohen's not a good business. That guy comes in every 10 years, pulls his little snake thing, and then disappears for another 10 years. That's
You're
not
on.
somebody you want to have your name attached. I would never put Paul Italia with Marvin Cohen, bro, because that's on me then. Now I'm responsible to make sure everything's right because I care where Marvin does it. So that you cannot hold that against him, man. And I disagree with you. And then my other thing is, bro, he's putting up his money. He's not going to an investor. He's putting up his money. Who cares if he wants to go and just do it in his own shed and call that his production? I don't care because he's putting up his money. He believes in his vision just like you did, but he's putting it into action. All I've heard since I came into this sport, Scott, is the same thing. Do this, or this is the way. Well, bro, what have you been waiting for 40 years? If it's the way, this shit should have been hit 40 years ago. What do you need one of us to put up our money for your dream?
I was a teenager 40 years ago, Paul.
But you're not today, bro. You're in a very good place. You have the money. You're into entertainment. You could do it yourself. You don't need Greg to finance your dream, is what I'm saying. I don't know if your way would work. Maybe it will. But why haven't you
That's my
tried it?
dream.
Why do we need Greg to say, oh, I'm not going to do what I want to do. I'm going to do what Scott does, and I'm going to finance it. That's not right. And then to come at him like an attitude, I don't agree with you, bro. And I've been getting tired of every time we have it on, you get on, and it went from being your opinion to now you're getting kind of nasty with us. You did this to me, bro. And I'm just like, yo, I said it last time. Yo, go put it together, do your league, get all the people putting in the money, and then I will make sure to promote it. I will talk it up. What did you tell me? Well, I don't necessarily want to be that guy. So you want me to go put my ass on your dream?
It's not
No,
one
that's
guy,
not
dude.
how it happens.
It's not one guy, Paul. Okay? It doesn't take one guy. I don't even if I had $1 million, it would take more than one person. All right? I'm not
And
against
he has a
Greg.
team that he puts together. He does this
Greg
for a
doesn't
living.
need to be defended. I'm not coming at Greg. I'm stating the facts. That's it.
But I'm just
Nothing
getting
more.
tired of hearing the same thing over and over from you, bro. And it's like, go with your own vision. Put up your own money. Go do it. Put your money where your mouth is or keep your mouth shut.
Why would
That's
I
it.
put my money up against people that like yourself that jumps boat to boat? That's what I'm saying. You need to stick to a vision. It doesn't happen overnight, Paul. It just doesn't happen. Did UFC happen overnight, Paul? Did it? No, it didn't. Exactly. So it takes time. It's not one person's vision. It's called
You're not
teamwork.
right at all with this, bro. I just don't want to argue anymore over it. Greg, I believe in what you're doing, brother. I'll back you and support you 100%. You're putting your money where
100%,
your
Greg.
mouth is. If that's the way you believe, and I truly believe in Greg's way. And I'm not just saying it. I've said this from the beginning. That's what is the key to growing arm wrestling. I'm finally glad to see somebody not only with the money, because many of us came along with the money, but we didn't have the connections. He has clearly stated tonight he is the man with the connections that
He
will
is.
make it happen.
He absolutely is. He's got, like I said, the guy's a businessman. He knows what he's doing. He sticks to the book. I'm all I can say is that I look up to you, Greg, with 100%, without a doubt. Okay, like I said, it's not a matter of competition. I'm not bagging on Greg. I'm not trying to go after Greg. I'm just stating the facts, Paul. That's it. My opinion doesn't matter to you. That's fine. That's okay. It doesn't matter.
I'm not saying that at all,
I know
Scott.
you're not. I'm
I
saying it
love
doesn't have to matter to anybody. When I sit here and try to get people to group together to make something happen, I can't force their hand. Am I going to put up my own money?
You're not coming at it like that, brother. You're coming at it like your way is the way, and you don't want to hear anybody else's vision. It's one thing if you're putting up the money, then I respect that. But you're not actually doing that. You're expecting other people with the money to see the same vision as you. Maybe not all of us do. Because when you say that to me, bro, it gets all confusing what you're talking about. It just sounds like a big pyramid. And it's like, you're telling me this, and then the back out at the end where you say, well, I don't want to be the guy to do it. Well, so somebody else is supposed to take your vision, put it into action, put their name on it when it's not their dream. That makes no sense to me, bro.
Okay,
If
well,
you
let me
really
clarify
believe in
it.
it, you'd put your
Let me
name on it and
clarify.
you
Let me
would do it.
clarify. When I say I don't want me to do it, is what I'm saying is I'm not saying Scott Wynn did this. Scott Wynn's the man. That's what I said, dude. Don't misinterpret what I said.
Well,
So
I
I
don't
don't
want to
want to
go and
do
take
it.
Scott Wynn's idea, bro, because I don't know the whole thing if it's gonna make it doesn't make sense to me. And when you said your idea and everybody in the chat was going, oh, here's the Scott Wynn Bernie Madoff pyramid scheme. That was what everybody was saying in there.
Chris
I
Gobby,
don't want to go and take a chance on it because I don't
you're
know if
like
it's going to work. Now, if Greg came
guys
to
like
me
Chris
and
Gobby.
said, hold on, if Greg came to me and said his idea, that I believe in. That's something I could get behind. Why? Because I was in the MMA world. I was sitting next to Dana White when that whole reality show started. I was sitting at all his events trying to get in with him then. When I seen him do that, that was genius to me. I'm like, this is what we need in arm wrestling. When non-arm wrestlers watch our sport, the first thing they say, this is boring. Greg is presenting a way, in my eyes, that's not boring. It's that everybody can understand, that everybody could associate with a character. And that's the key. When you said, oh, we got to just go with the pure arm wrestling, bro, that's not working. It's boring to people. So, guys, I want everybody else to chime in here. I want to, this is not just me and Greg and me and Scott in an argument and all. Don Hollywood, I want to hear what your thoughts are on all this. Do you believe in the way that Greg is going about it? You've been in just as long as Scott, or do you believe that we got to change it?
Well, I mean, first of all, Scott, I appreciate what you're trying to portray here. We all, especially guys that have been a lifer in this thing, we've all had a vision of success of some point of what we see. And it may or may not work, but I mean, at the end of the day, Paul's hitting the nail on the head. I mean, you got a guy that's running his own production, doing it his way, and he's not asking for nothing. The first thing I warn him about is when you're starting to be successful, your phone's going to start to ring. Those are the phone calls you don't want. Go out, learn the sport, look at what's going on, and find the people you mesh well with, and it'll be real simple. I mean, I don't know, man. Attitude, connection, camaraderie, all the things that matter. And personalities sometimes work, some personalities don't. You guys have, had some history, but I mean, I know you personally. I like you. I think you do a great job. You've always been kind and fair in everything we've ever done. So I don't think there's any reason why Gregg would not work with you. Like I said, I mean, you're a well-known face and figure in the sport, and you've earned your respect. Like you said, a multi-time champion. But yeah, man, it's just got to kind of sit back and hopefully you fit in somewhere. And it sounds like you do. I mean, I think you're a great referee. You've got some vision, and sometimes just those little, hints or conversations, like, hey, man, this would be really cool if, and let that sink in. And sometimes, it will come to life. But, the sport's going to go where the sport's going to go. We've seen everybody try. Game of Arms was a success. The ratings were through the roof. There was some politics involved why it went off the show. It had nothing to do with the ratings. The ratings they expected 250,000 viewers. The first episode, it trickled in over 1 million. Steadily stayed at 740,000. If you know anything about reality television, that's good numbers. Episode 9, Travis and I hit around 940. And they were looking for big numbers on season 2. But, when you start talking about, PEDs and you see people attacking other people, there's liability that you cannot face as a company. And they decided because of that factor, and I know this for a fact, I was a consultant for the show and got a lot more information than a lot of people. But it wasn't for the ratings. It was there. The show was a success, but it was our own fault, our own doing as a group of guys that were just, I mean, truly 25 guys on the show and 18 or 20 was out of control. We had addictions. We had problems. I mean, that was the reality show in the reality show, to tell you the truth. You know, I always said, if you did that show today, you'd get some really good talent, some really good content, because everybody has become the humans that they actually should have been. But Lord knows, sky's the limit. The house is a great idea. I think the budget, keeping it low and simple, and having one chief is the only way to go. But Scott, your passion is clear. I love that. I think Gregg understands it as well. Keep the passion and just, like I say, be part of the team and the group. And like I said, I don't see why there'd be any reason why Gregg wouldn't work with you. Like I said, you've earned your place here, man. So
I appreciate it. I appreciate the words. I mean, and I will continue on supporting Gregg. You know that. There's no doubt about it. I've always supported even the leagues like Wall. I've always continued supporting. I never looked the other way. I've never turned my back. Obviously, Wall's not around right now. We've been hearing that they're going to come back for the last 2 years. I heard it again just recently that they're going to make a comeback. So, yeah, I mean, I will never stop supporting anybody who tries to push the sport, period, ever. And as far as trying to push my idea, it's not me alone that needs to do this. This is something that hasn't ever been done before and still hasn't happened. So once it does happen, I truly believe everybody will have the same vision. They'll all be part of the same membership, and the money will keep funneling out, and it'll grow into something huge where events like Gregg's get funded through our league.
Yeah.
There are events that are done in Kansas City, Australia, throughout the world, because we all belong to this huge entity. That's the only thing I've been preaching, man. That's it. I just want us all to be in one big bubble instead of 100 bubbles. That's it.
And
nothing more.
And you've talked about it for years, unionizing the sport and a certain fee for everyone to come in, and it puts a pool of money together to do things. And I mean, it's just math. I mean, that absolutely makes sense. The problem is there's too many chiefs in the TP, man. Nobody wants to say, well, we can all work together, because everybody wants to be the king of the castle. And that's where Gregg's kind of a little bit different. He's not asking for help. You know, he's just doing a little thing, and he's slowly doing things. And I want to say one word, and Gregg, you heard this from me last weekend a lot, and Scott, and all of you guys out there, if you're listening, if you want to be successful in arm wrestling as a promoter, it's simply consistency. You put on a tournament, you do what you say you're going to do, rinse and repeat. Ryan Johnson's a good example, Scott. You know, he's been doing the Fallen Heroes tournament for 8 years now. He's doing it again March 22nd next year. 500 people, 400 or 500. You've seen that stuff. And Brian Kerner running off the Nat Fit. That's because this market is consistent. And I think Gregg's going to end up being that guy with the television stuff, because consistency is everything. Go back to Jacksonville, where we had small entries but good talent. Next year we get another 10 or 20. The next year you got 60 more, because it's consistent. And like I said, I think Gregg is doing the right thing, and he's on the right path. And that's one of the reasons that I like working with that, because I always know where I'm going to be, and I always got a little bit of work. So just keep your head up, man. I'm sure you're going to be right there amongst all of it. I mean, you're right in his backyard. Why wouldn't you get used? That's simple. So,
well, hey, I'm definitely going to win $5,000 come November.
Yeah, good luck, brother. I hope so.
I hope so for you, Scott.
Les Paul drops to 176.
No, we've all got room to work together, and like I said, I understand that you came on here and you were just expressing your passion. I think it did come across wrong, but I know you, and when you know who you're talking to, sometimes it's a little easier to dissect it and realize what's going on. So keep up the passion, man. Keep doing what you're doing. You're one of the guys that's a lifer. You'll be on life support still trying to do this shit, and God bless you for it. So
I want to throw in one thing, Scott. I always loved your brother, and I always got respect for you, man. So just because we had this little, I don't want anybody to take this any other kind of way. You will always, got my love, and I respect you 100%. And I'm telling you to this day, like I've always said from day one, you go and put that together, brother, and I will make the noise that everybody hears, and I will try getting it out there like it was mine. That's what I promised you from day one, and I'm a man of my word, and you know that.
I think we all would.
I don't hold
Yeah,
grudges either. Even against Doug Urich talking all the shit he is right now, I won't hold a grudge against him. You know what I mean? That's part of the game, talking shit. So
Can I
I'm
ask
not.
you what is that about too? Because I did see, like, I saw you make a post a little while ago, but is there a match coming up with that, or like what's the deal with him, you and Doug?
Well, actually, I already screwed up by mentioning his name, so I won't say his name again because he said, keep my effing name out of your mouth." He had made a post a while back on his page about being the best under 200 pounds, and nobody could beat him at 176. I replied to that post. I just mentioned I know a few guys. I'm one of them, I believe, and I'll put up $1,000 if you put up your arm and prove it, because I don't see you arm wrestling. And he got offended by that, and dude took it to the next level. And it was like, wow, bro, you're like really, just my opinion, the fat, ugly old man, and you're worried about what I have to say, really? So yeah, we're gonna hopefully pull sometime maybe at the end of the year. I'm gonna drop the 176 for Gregg's event and for the nationals for Luray, and that's in Tennessee. So I'll be at 176. Hopefully I'll be healthy. I have my own issues with that, but yeah, I mean, it's not that big a deal. He made it into something a lot bigger than it is. He's calling me a liar, this and that. I actually did take screenshots. I didn't share it with anybody because that's not the way I am, but I had a feeling he erased his post, and I had a feeling he was gonna keep talking shit to me and then say something. So I got all his messages just because he went off the Richter. And again, I have nothing ill against Doug. I don't see him competing that much, and for him to make statements that he's the best in the US at 176 pounds, when Luke, Corey Miller, there's so many guys, dude, that any given day anybody can win. You come in and you have your best day, then you're good to go. So yeah, I mean, I don't make those statements. I could see saying something like I'm one of the best 176ers in the US, but not the best. And what he did say, word for word, is they have to go through me to be the best. And he also says him and Edgin have such a good relationship. That's why he keeps getting invited to go overseas to compete against the Europeans, because there's nobody here for him to compete against. And unfortunately for Tim Talmadge, sorry, Tim, we kind of, in a way, we kind of like, I don't know, we got him to spew out who he was talking about the other night. But somebody made a phone call to Edgin and made some comments and said, I don't want Tim Talmadge reffing my match. So, I mean, I don't know, bro. You talk about, like, I don't know, man. He's a child to me. Like, that's just immature shit right there. But whatever. I don't want to be Mr.
Is there anything locked in, like in stone yet? Do you have an event or anything where
No,
that match could be held?
not that I know of. No, it's just we just literally have gone back and forth. He said he'll take my money, yada da da. So
I want to put this. I want to hold you. I want to put this out there to all the organizations, promoters that are listening right now. We have the drama behind it. This would be a great match. If anybody wants to see this, contact Scott, contact somebody on here, and let's see if we can make that happen. Because I'm definitely interested in this. Like I understand Doug has rubbed a couple people wrong. I seen him go in at Hunter Knopf, who won the 176 class round robin. You know, he came up from the 154 and put on a show and kind of shocked the world with that. And I seen them going back and forth, and you know, I saw a lot of, you know, putting up a lot of money and all. And I think they got a match locked in. Is that confirmed, like East versus West or something that they're going
Yeah,
to be happening?
that's in 2 weeks in Orlando, man. I'm gonna
Okay,
be there.
okay.
You said you were going, right?
No, no, no. Next weekend, I will be. This weekend coming up, I will be
Yeah.
at the Sarah Bachman Classic, and then I got to go back to the West Coast and all. I'm not going to be at East versus West, but that's another thing. I just want to shout out the Sarah Bachman. Anybody in Florida, definitely make the trip this Saturday. She's putting an amazing event. They got big plans to do a bunch more after this. We got Gabby coming in, a bunch of people flying from all over the country. I know, I think Paul Lynn's going to be there. I think the 98. There's going to be people from everywhere. So if you're anywhere near, make sure you hit up the Sarah Bachman Classic. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then the following weekend, we know we got the East versus West is coming to the Florida, United States. It's the first one over there. So that's another great event everybody should check out. But I really want to push this match, man. So I would love to see you versus Doug happen somewhere. That is a very interesting match for me, for sure.
Yeah, we'll
Hey,
see.
speaking of events this weekend, let's hit the nail with the hammer that we got in our hand here and talk about Gregg's event in Atlantic City. I mean, that was kind of one of the purposes coming here. So
Yeah,
a
we
lot
kind of
of
got
stuff.
sidetracked on there. So let's hit all your guys, what you guys got coming up and all that, please.
Yeah. Well, Gregg, I'll let you take over here. You've got more information in your mouth than I do mine. I just want to give you the opportunity to talk about these events coming up all the way to the finals. So tell us about that, please.
I appreciate that. And Scott, like I said, open conversation whenever you need it and want it, as long as our schedules meet. So we've got Atlantic City this weekend. We're at the Bally Casino. We're at the Yard. Bally has been, I'll tell you what, in terms of a location sponsor, they are amazing. They've put us on the marquee outside the casino. They've been pumping it through all of the people that have visited Bally's, I guess, over the last 6 months. They've sent out emails. They're running our promos. I can't say enough about the staff over there. They've been terrific. They've actually asked us to come back multiple times in their off season so that they can help support with a bit more on rooms and stuff like that. It's the summertime. It's the boardwalk's busiest time of the year. And I'll tell you, I'm excited about it because I think we're going to see one of our largest atypical crowds with people from the boardwalk, people from the casino coming down and taking a look and seeing what arm wrestling is all about. I think that's, one of the things that made last weekend so great with the troops. And this weekend is going to be great with viewers that we don't usually see. And so we're excited about Atlantic City. We came, we want to continue to be consistent. And I think, Don, that's the exact correct word that we try to shoot for. Atlantic City here this weekend. And
Bally's.
shout out to what's that?
Bally's in Kansas City. 2 weeks in a row, Bally's are supporting this. Wanted to watch on the subject. So go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a shout out to Sarah and her promotion down there. Sarah's a sweetheart. Certainly, if we weren't competing on the same dates for the calendar, we're not competing in a competition way in business, but there's only 52 weeks of Saturdays in a year. So I hope she has an amazing event, which I'm sure her and Mikey will. Then we're out to Kansas City, and we're back at Bally's again. The unique relationship with Bally's has been that they really want to get behind WSA, and had they not demolished their one property in Vegas, that can be an option in the future when they build their next one. Mississippi has a Bally's out there, and that may come back to be an event in the years to come. So Bally's has really been very, very supportive. We'll be at Chickies and Pete's at the Bally's in Kansas City on the 10th. Interesting, Don, I was telling you earlier today, we had about 5 or 6 people just call and want to get involved. And I think that's the difference between seasons 1, 2, and 3 is, season 1, we really didn't have a whole lot of people that were believers per se. I think anytime you have something new, people are cautious, which is the right thing to be. Season 2, I think we started to turn the spectrum with getting more people involved. And, the fun thing about season 3 is I think between the last 3 qualifiers, we've probably had 30 to 35 amateur athletes that have never pulled in arm wrestling ever before come out and use these events as their first time. So that's an exciting thing for us. And Kansas City, we've had those 5 or 6 calls, so I'm expecting to have a great show there. And Ryan Johnson, him and Brian are 2 of the most solid guys out there, and just to be able to work with them again, and you, Don, in your backyard, and it's a great feeling. We're going to have Bill Onofre and Pat Bear come in to help referee. Brent Rockers, who's won the 209 class for the last couple of years for us in the finals. He's coming out to support. Obviously, he doesn't have to qualify again, winning the final weight division, but he's still going to be there. So I'm really looking forward to Kansas City. And then we're off to Ogden, right outside of Salt Lake City, for the finals. And, it'll be an interesting finals. Utah has a value of pullers that are pretty unique. They're a tight-knit group of guys up there. The Northwest is a little bit more geographically challenging. So guys are going to have to drive to get to anywhere that they're going to want to pull. So I'm hoping that we get a bit of the Oregonians, if you will, the Washington Staters, the Idahos. I know Allen's coming in to support. Don't know if he's going to pull, but he's definitely coming down to support. Justin Green does a great job out there. We highlighted him last year, and we'll continue to highlight him. He does a lot in the world of suicide prevention, and sadly he lost his brother. So I mean, there's a lot of family feel in Ogden, and there are a couple of guys from the California area that I think are going to jump in a car and come up to qualify that weren't able to qualify on our June 29th event. Albeit Bill Collins is throwing a great event in Anaheim. I think he does those Fit Pros, the LA Fits expos, and I think this one's in Anaheim, and certainly we continue to support him. So there's a lot of fun and really good quality events going on that final weekend for us. Uniquely, we don't have a qualifier on September 28th, but we were asked by Harley Davidson, who's come to us now on a little bit bigger level. As we continue to grow, we continue to find the more and more of the right people. They have us coming in for Bike Week, which we're going to showcase arm wrestling for about 15,000 people that are going to come through their Bike Week seminar or event. And then finals. November 2nd is the finals. We're going to pay out pretty close to 50. I think the number was 47. I added 2 more for the women this year. So we're at 49, plus I've already bought, pretty close to 100 rooms for the winners of weight classes across the country that are going to earn them. We've got the Canadian pullers who came down. We did a satellite event in February. They're bringing a team of 12 down from Saskatchewan. Kane Hemsing is bringing his team that qualified. I think not to be overstated, but I think we should see 150 to 200 people in the finals. Riverside was on the pro end, and Scott will tell you, I think our lightest class may have been 7 or 8 in the super heavyweights, which was still quite a few for super heavyweights. But I think we had 13 in the 76s. I think we hit 16 or 17 in the 209s. And I think 11 or 12 in the 239s, or I may have had those numbers kind of skewed. So I'm thinking our pro divisions in the finals it will be somewhere between the 16 and 25 people deep, which is a really great showing. Scott's going to take the striped shirt off and put the arm wrestling shirt on. So, I mean, there's another arm wrestler there. We'll have Alan come down. I really think that 76 is going to be super competitive. And November 2nd, we're going to find out who we're going to crown as the winners. If you win your weight class, it's $2,500 per arm. So Scott's right. If he wins left and right, he's going to walk away with $5,000 cash. The overall is another $1,500 per arm. So if Scott's got enough juice to get through maybe Corey West or Cody Merritt or Travis Bajan supposedly coming to Atlantic City this weekend to qualify. And, there's a lot of pullers out there that are going to be going after, the big payday. So a winner, theoretically, both weight classes and the both overalls is an $8,000 day for them, plus their hotel rooms and, a couple of real nice watches from Rockwell. So, I've kind of pushed it to a point where I think in value it's, that individual, if there is significantly just one, is going to walk away with well over $10,000 in cash and valued prizes, and that's a good payday. And I think that's going to continue to grow. So that's the nutshell from here on out: Atlantic City, Kansas City, Ogden, Salt Lake City, and then back to the finals in San Diego, November 2nd. And we're excited. I will say this. It does take a village to grow, any community within itself. It takes a village to police it. It takes a village to promote it. And everybody, even though I have to be the person that runs my ship, the ship isn't run by the uniqueness of Gregg Sharp. It's run by the uniqueness of all the personalities that are underneath that continue to believe in a concept that's been challenged and hit upon many, many times over. And, the best thing that I can do is stay very focused and grounded and humble and just, enjoy the fact that I have the Dons and the Scotts and the Pauls and the Matts and, and all of the Tims and the Kaylas and everybody that comes together to, make us a success. And even Luke Pulscher, the man is an amazing man. He's an amazing puller, amazing ref. He's going to come down for the finals to be a table head ref. Called me up with all of the humbleness, and he said, "Listen, I just want to help you." So when you start to have those people start to get behind you and the passions and the push, it challenges me to be better. And if I'm trying to be better, I'm going to try to keep pushing this ship as far along and as easily as we can. And then when we hit choppy waters, we're gonna navigate, and then we're gonna keep pushing, and that's all you can do. And that's my commitment. So that's where we're at. And I love the fact that you guys had me on. Certainly Don has made an extensive amount of phone calls. The man was sitting with me in the lobby at the hotel, and he goes, "Wait, I'm going to call this one. I'm going to call this one. Gregg, what? Give me your time. Give me your time. Give me your time." And he's just been an amazing addition, and we're blessed to have him and everyone across the board. And as long as we continue to do it right, we're going to make mistakes. There's no doubt in any business you make mistakes. We're going to learn from them. And as long as people have patience and see that we're not backing out or backing down or being unethical or lacking the integrity that we're promoting and we're showing, I think time will be kind to us, and that's where we'll be measured, right? At the end of the day, we won't be measured by season 3. We're going to be measured by season 6 or season 8 or season 10. And yes, at some point, Scott, you're right. I'm 54 years old. At some point, there's going to be someone to be needed to be able to bring that big money in, to be able to take this to the next level. I mean, Dana White was a sole owner when he started the UFC, and what happens? He brings in the Furtadas, and next thing you know, it went from his vision to a mega corporation. Could we be that lucky? Why not? Why not us? We're going to give it a shot. But it's going to take me making the right business decisions and bringing in the right business partners when the time is right to to grow it. And if that means that Gregg's role will come down, and that way we put more of that JP5 or whatever that fighter gas is in the engine, so we can fly higher and faster. And we're going to do that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Anyone who gets into business should get into the idea that they're going to enter and they're going to exit. Because one thing is true, time waits for no one, and whether I exit while I'm living or while I'm dead, I'm still going to exit at some point. So as long as I'm leaving it off to people that are going to take this to the next level and continue to grow it, we're going to be great. And that's how I see it. At the end of the day, I'm just an old Irish guy from New York, just happy to be part of a community that I really enjoy, and hopefully doing something positive to make people, continue to want to do what we do.
I love it, Gregg. I think the fact that you're giving away the amount of money you're giving away, you're placing down to 8th place. There's nobody out there doing that. I mean, you got the $100 buy-in tournaments to be able to win $1,200. So, and you're charging $50. Once you qualify or once you enter, you're in the finals. You don't have to pay again at the finals. Nobody's done this before. So kudos to you. I'm 100% behind you. You know I am. And I'll be there whenever you need me. And I'll definitely be there in November, obviously. So you got my support 100%.
I appreciate that. I do, Scott. I really do.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming on tonight. It was a great show. I think it was a lot of great constructive talks tonight. I could respect the show where not everybody just agrees. We have to have these, conversations and different opinions, because these days it's like if you don't agree with somebody, then you can't be cool with them. No, this is the best thing for our sport, and I appreciate you coming on, Scott, and giving us the constructive criticism and all. And Don, always a pleasure to have you on, brother. I've always said that, man. You always got an invite on my channel anytime you want to come on here. And Matt, I just want to say again, brother, the last month you've been having the Arm Wrestling Buzz show and holding it down for us, and I really truly appreciate that. And for all the guys in the chat, you guys are always there supporting us. I really respect you guys a lot. So thank you guys. Tonight was a great show, and let's see the double bicep show before we call it end the night. Yeah, there you go. Have a great night, everybody.
Yes,
Again, with the Arm Wrestling Buzz,
guys.
and next week we'll be back on my channel. So make sure you tune in there, and we'll be back at a regular time, regular channel.